Picture yourself floating 250 miles above our planet, completely untethered from everything familiar, surrounded by an endless expanse of blackness, where the only thing separating you from certain death is a thin layer of metal and glass. In this environment, every single emotion you experience isn't just a passing feeling. It becomes a critical factor that could determine the success or failure of a multi-billion-dollar mission, or even mean the difference between life and death itself. This is the reality astronauts face every day aboard space stations, and it's why engineers and psychologists have had to completely rethink how we design these extraordinary habitats. They're not just building machines, they're crafting emotional ecosystems where human beings can not only survive, but truly thrive under the most extreme conditions humanity has ever encountered. Today, we're going to explore the 22 human emotions that space station designers must account for in their daily work, not as abstract psychological concepts, but as tangible engineering parameters that are built directly into the very structure of these incredible orbiting laboratories. We'll take you behind the scenes at NASA, SpaceX, and other space agencies to reveal how they're integrating emotional intelligence into spacecraft design in ways that might surprise you. This isn't about making space stations more comfortable in the way we might think about adding cozy furniture to a living room. It's about creating environments that actively support peak human performance when the stakes couldn't be higher. What you're about to discover goes far beyond conventional engineering. We're talking about architecture that fights claustrophobia, lighting systems that manage anxiety, communication technologies that combat isolation, and design principles that foster camaraderie and resilience among crew members who are literally millions of miles from home. This fascinating intersection of human psychology and cutting-edge technology represents one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of space exploration, setting the stage for humanity's future among the stars while teaching us incredible lessons about what it means to be human right here on Earth. To truly appreciate how space station designers address human emotions, we first need to step into the unique psychological world astronauts inhabit. This isn't just a workplace or a home, it's what psychologists formally classify as an ICE environment, standing for isolated, confined, and extreme. In such settings, emotions don't behave normally. A minor irritation that you might shrug off on Earth can fester into a serious conflict when you're trapped with the same few people for months. A moment of anxiety can spiral when there's literally nowhere to go to escape that feeling. Every emotional response becomes amplified, and every reaction carries more weight because the stakes are so incredibly high. Space agencies didn't just guess at these psychological challenges. They conducted decades of research looking at the closest Earth-based analogs to space stations. They studied nuclear submarine crews who spend months submerged with no sunlight or fresh air. They observed scientists in Antarctic research stations during the perpetual darkness of winter. They even examined prison populations to understand how humans adapt to long-term confinement. What they discovered was that certain design elements could either exacerbate or alleviate psychological stress, regardless of the specific environment. The International Space Station represents the ultimate application of this research. Every single design decision, from the curvature of the walls to the placement of handholds, has psychological implications. The color palette isn't just about aesthetics. Specific shades are chosen to create perceptual space and affect mood. The lighting systems replicate natural daylight cycles to maintain circadian rhythms. Even the acoustic properties of each module are engineered to manage stress. with certain mechanical noises dampened while others are emphasized to provide comforting auditory feedback. This approach represents a fundamental shift in design philosophy. Instead of waiting for psychological problems to emerge and then developing solutions, space station designers now anticipate emotional needs before they even become apparent. They create environments that actively support mental health rather than simply avoiding obvious stressors. It's the difference between designing a room that doesn't make you claustrophobic versus one that actually makes you feel expansive and free, even when you're in a relatively small space. This foundation in environmental psychology informs every aspect of space station design, creating habitats that don't just keep astronauts alive physically, but help them thrive psychologically. The designers understand that you can't separate human emotion from human performance. They're intrinsically linked, especially when operating in the most demanding environment humanity has ever experienced. Now let's explore the first and perhaps most instinctive emotion that space station designers must address: claustrophobia. The sensation of being trapped in a confined metal tube hundreds of miles above Earth presents a fundamental psychological challenge that engineers approach with remarkable creativity. Rather than simply accepting the physical limitations of their spacecraft, designers employ sophisticated architectural illusions and spatial planning techniques that transform how astronauts perceive their environment. They understand that claustrophobia isn't just about physical space, it's about perceptual space, and that distinction makes all the difference in creating habitats that feel expansive rather than confining. One of the most ingenious solutions involves what might be called digital windows, high-resolution screens strategically placed throughout the station that display real-time views of Earth passing below. These aren't just monitors, they're carefully calibrated displays with proper perspective, lighting, and even parallax effects that create the convincing illusion of actual windows. The content changes dynamically too, showing different angles and zoom levels throughout the day to maintain the psychological effect of having multiple viewing options. Astronauts report that these virtual portals provide crucial psychological relief, offering visual escape routes when the confinement becomes overwhelming. Color psychology plays an equally important role in combating the sensation of being trapped. Designers use specific light color palettes, soft blues, gentle greens, and warm neutrals that recede visually to create perceptual expansion. Dark colors are avoided entirely since they tend to make spaces feel smaller and more enclosed. The lighting systems themselves are designed to eliminate harsh shadows that might emphasize the boundaries of each module, instead using diffuse illumination that seems to extend beyond the physical walls. This careful attention to color and light transforms what could feel like a series of cramped compartments into what astronauts describe as feeling surprisingly airy and open. The architecture itself incorporates subtle curvature in walls and ceilings that eliminates the box-like feeling of early spacecraft designs. These gentle curves create visual interest that distracts from the actual dimensions of each space while also providing reference points that help with spatial orientation in microgravity. Strategic mirror placements in certain areas multiply visual space without creating disorientation, carefully positioned to reflect interesting views rather than simply repeating the same confined scene. Even the flooring and ceiling materials are chosen for their visual properties, with patterns that lead the eye along pathways rather than emphasizing the limits of each module. Multifunctional spaces represent another key strategy in the fight against claustrophobia. Instead of dedicating specific areas to single purposes, designers create adaptable environments that can transform throughout the day. A dining area might convert into a conference space, which then becomes a recreation zone in the evening. This flexibility creates the psychological impression of having multiple distinct environments to move between, effectively making the station feel much larger than its actual square footage. The transformation mechanisms themselves provide sensory variety. Different lighting configurations, altered acoustic properties, and rearranged furniture all contribute to the feeling of occupying multiple spaces rather than being confined to one. Personal quarters receive particular attention since these are the spaces where astronauts must find respite from the constant togetherness of station life. Each sleep station includes customizable lighting systems that can simulate everything from daylight to sunset, along with personal display screens that show family photos, nature scenes, or even simulated windows looking out into space. The bedding area is designed to feel enveloping and secure rather than cramped, with careful attention to texture, airflow, and personal storage that makes each cubicle feel like a private retreat rather than just another confined space. Acoustic design plays a surprisingly important role in managing claustrophobia as well. The constant hum of life support machinery and other systems is carefully dampened to prevent what designers call auditory confinement, the feeling of being trapped with nowhere to escape certain sounds. Instead, engineers introduce more naturalistic background sounds that mask the mechanical noises without being intrusive. The acoustic properties vary throughout the station too, with some areas designed to be quieter for concentration, while others have more ambient sound to create a sense of activity and life. Perhaps most importantly, sightlines are meticulously planned to ensure astronauts always have visual access to multiple areas from any given position. This eliminates the panicky feeling of being trapped in a dead-end space with no visual connection to what's beyond. Passageways are designed with gentle curves rather than sharp turns, maintaining visual continuity between modules. Even the placement of equipment and storage follows this principle, ensuring that critical sightlines remain open rather than being blocked by bulky machinery or supplies. While the station maintains nearly continuous communication links with mission control, astronauts still experience a profound sense of isolation that goes far beyond physical distance. It's the psychological weight of being separated from everyone and everything they've ever known, floating in what can feel like an endless, empty ocean of space. Designers approach this emotional challenge not by trying to eliminate isolation entirely, which would be impossible, but by creating multiple layers of connection that address different aspects of the experience. They understand that isolation isn't just about lacking contact, it's about lacking meaningful contact, so their solutions focus on quality of interaction rather than simply quantity. The communication systems themselves represent marvels of psychological engineering. While astronauts could theoretically have near-instantaneous communication for operational matters, designers intentionally implement slight delays in personal communications to create more natural conversational rhythms. This might seem counterintuitive, but it actually enhances the emotional quality of interactions by preventing the awkward overlaps and interruptions that can occur with the 2-second delay caused by the actual distance. The video quality is prioritized over speed, with high-resolution cameras and displays positioned at eye level to create the illusion of presence. Lighting in communication areas is carefully designed to flatter both the astronaut and their family members on Earth, eliminating the harsh shadows that might make either party seem distant or unfamiliar. These video sessions are treated as special events rather than routine check-ins, with comfortable seating and privacy screens that create a sense of occasion around each connection moment. Virtual reality technologies provide another layer of connection, allowing astronauts to temporarily escape their metallic surroundings and immerse themselves in familiar Earth environments. These aren't just generic nature scenes, they're customized experiences based on each astronaut's preferences and memories. One might choose to virtually walk through their hometown neighborhood during autumn, complete with the appropriate sounds and even temperature changes simulated through personal cooling systems. Another might virtually attend their child's birthday party through 360-degree cameras set up in their actual home. The VR systems include haptic feedback technology that can simulate everything from the warmth of sunlight to the texture of grass beneath feet, creating multi-sensory experiences that feel remarkably real despite their digital nature. The architecture of the station itself fights isolation through deliberately designed social spaces. Connection zones are strategically placed throughout the living modules, featuring comfortable microgravity seating arrangements that facilitate face-to-face conversations rather than just side-by-side coexistence. These areas include acoustic dampening systems that create intimate sound bubbles, allowing for private conversations even in relatively open areas. The lighting in these zones is warmer and softer than in work areas, with adjustable color temperatures that can simulate evening light for more relaxed interactions. Every surface in these areas is designed for comfort, rounded edges, soft materials, and even subtle vibration systems that can provide calming tactile feedback during conversations. Private communication booths offer another solution, designed to feel like comfortable home offices rather than spacecraft modules. These small but well-appointed spaces include soundproofing, personal climate control, and customizable lighting that allows astronauts to create their ideal communication environment. The interfaces are simple and intuitive, with large touch screens that make it easy to share photos, videos, and documents with loved ones back home. Each booth includes a small window with a stunning Earth view, serving as a visual reminder of what and who they're connected to down below. The chairs in these booths are designed to provide a sense of enclosure and security, helping astronauts feel protected and private during vulnerable conversations. Perhaps the most effective weapon against isolation isn't technological at all, it's the deliberate design of social rituals, particularly around food. The galley area is arranged to naturally encourage collaboration, with multiple preparation stations that make cooking a shared activity rather than a solitary task. The dining table is designed as a central gathering point with microgravity restraints that allow crew members to eat together comfortably, facing each other in a circular arrangement that promotes conversation. The food itself becomes a connection point, with meals often featuring international dishes that celebrate the diverse backgrounds of the crew members. Designers even incorporate small surprises in food packages, handwritten notes from the preparation teams on Earth, or special occasion meals that mark holidays and birthdays that create unexpected moments of connection. Storage areas include dedicated space for physical connection objects from Earth. Unlike early space missions that severely limited personal items, modern stations encourage astronauts to bring meaningful mementos that help them maintain their Earth identities. These might include family photographs, children's drawings, small musical instruments, or even items that carry familiar smells from home. The display systems for these items are designed to make them easily visible and accessible, not hidden away in storage. Some astronauts create small shrines or collections in their personal quarters that they can see from their sleeping position, providing comforting visual connections to home as they begin and end each day. The station's daily schedule itself is designed to combat isolation through structured social interaction. Mandatory group activities are built into each day, ranging from shared exercise sessions to group problem-solving tasks. Even the cleaning routines are designed as social activities, with crew members working together rather than dividing up tasks individually. The timing of these activities is carefully planned to coincide with natural energy dips throughout the day, providing social stimulation when astronauts might otherwise withdraw into isolation. Emergency drills are designed to reinforce interdependence, with scenarios that require crew members to rely on each other's strengths and communicate effectively under pressure. Perhaps most importantly, designers create systems that help astronauts feel connected not just to their immediate families, but to humanity as a whole. Earth observation stations are equipped with telescopes and cameras that allow crew members to witness both the beauty and fragility of our planet. Communication systems facilitate interactions with schools, research institutions, and community groups around the world, reminding astronauts that they're representing all of humanity in their extraordinary endeavor. Display screens throughout the station show real-time data about life on Earth, weather patterns, city lights at night, even social media feeds from major events, creating a constant connection to the vibrant, living planet they've temporarily left behind. Moving beyond the challenges of isolation, space station designers confront another subtle but equally dangerous emotional threat: the creeping monotony that can settle into even the most extraordinary environments when daily routines become predictable. In the confined world of a space station, where every day follows a similar structure of experiments, maintenance, and exercise, boredom isn't just an annoyance, it's a legitimate operational risk that can lead to decreased vigilance, reduced motivation, and even errors in critical procedures. Designers approach this challenge through what they term controlled novelty, a sophisticated balancing act that introduces just enough variety and surprise to maintain engagement without creating additional stress or disrupting the essential rhythms of space station life. The architectural design itself becomes a tool against monotony through modular interior systems that allow crew members to physically reshape their environment throughout the mission. Walls and partitions can be reconfigured monthly, transforming the layout of living quarters and workspaces to create fresh perspectives and new traffic patterns. Storage units rotate on tracks, revealing different artwork or personal display areas as they move. Even the lighting systems incorporate algorithmic variation, subtly shifting color temperatures and intensity patterns in ways that are noticeable but not disruptive. These physical changes provide tangible evidence that the environment is evolving, countering the sensation of being stuck in a static, unchanging space. Designers incorporate what might be called discovery elements throughout the station, hidden compartments that automatically unlock at predetermined mission milestones, revealing new items, personal messages from Earth, or special treats that break the routine. One astronaut might find a new virtual reality experience available on their rest day, while another discovers a new puzzle installed in the recreation module. These surprises are carefully timed to coincide with known psychological low points in long-duration missions, providing emotional boosts exactly when they're most needed. The delivery mechanisms themselves vary. Some items appear through automated systems, while others require crew members to solve simple puzzles or follow clues to discover them, turning the process of receiving surprises into engaging activities themselves. Workstation design incorporates adjustable interfaces that require different interaction patterns throughout the mission, preventing the development of automatic behaviors that can lead to complacency. Control panels might reconfigure their layout slightly, requiring conscious attention rather than muscle memory. Experiment interfaces introduce new data visualization methods or control sequences that keep scientists intellectually engaged with familiar research. Even communication systems vary their interface designs, ensuring that routine tasks like checking messages or scheduling video calls maintain an element of novelty that demands present-moment attention. The exercise equipment essential for maintaining physical health in microgravity becomes a psychological tool as well. Treadmills and resistance machines include randomized programs that create virtual reality competitions against ground crews or previous mission teams. An astronaut might find themselves running through a digitally recreated version of their hometown one day, then racing against a computer simulation of an Olympic athlete the next. The systems track personal bests and milestones, providing satisfying feedback and goals that transform routine exercise from a chore into an engaging challenge. These virtual environments also provide visual variety, offering digital escapes from the metallic surroundings of the station. Leisure areas feature entertainment systems with carefully curated content that rotates based on mission duration and crew preferences. Rather than providing access to entire libraries at once, the systems release new movies, music, books, and games according to a schedule that maintains a steady stream of novelty throughout the mission. Puzzle walls in common areas evolve progressively, with new challenges appearing as crew members solve previous ones. These collaborative puzzles often require input from multiple crew members with different specialties, turning leisure activities into team-building exercises that strengthen social bonds while combating boredom. Even the most routine aspects of daily life receive attention in the fight against monotony. Meal systems incorporate surprise elements where familiar food packages might contain unexpected variations or special occasion items. The hydration systems occasionally introduce slight variations in water mineralization or temperature, providing sensory novelty in something as basic as drinking water. Cleaning routines include different tools or methods introduced at intervals, making necessary maintenance tasks feel slightly novel rather than endlessly repetitive. The scheduling systems themselves incorporate algorithmic variation that introduces slight changes to daily routines, adjusting the timing of certain activities, varying the sequence of tasks, or occasionally introducing unexpected free periods. These variations are carefully calibrated to provide novelty without disrupting the essential circadian rhythms and work-rest cycles that are crucial for health and performance. The system might schedule a familiar task in a different location one day, or combine two routine activities in a novel way the next, ensuring that even well-established patterns retain an element of freshness. Personal development opportunities are woven throughout the mission timeline, with new training modules, educational courses, or skill-building activities becoming available at strategic points. An astronaut might gain access to an advanced photography tutorial during the second month, then a language learning program in the fourth month, then a musical instrument simulation in the sixth month. These opportunities provide meaningful challenges that combat boredom while contributing to personal growth and mission readiness. The station's computing systems even manage novelty in digital interfaces, occasionally changing display themes, introducing new organizational tools, or offering alternative ways to view familiar data. These changes are implemented gradually and with crew input, ensuring they enhance rather than frustrate the user experience. The systems also include exploration modes that allow curious astronauts to discover hidden features or access additional information about station systems, turning routine operations into opportunities for learning and discovery. Perhaps most importantly, designers create systems that help astronauts recognize and appreciate the subtle variations that naturally occur in their environment. The changing patterns of sunlight reflected through windows, the shifting views of Earth below, the gradual progress of scientific experiments. Display systems highlight these natural variations, drawing attention to the ways the station environment is never truly static. This mindfulness-building approach helps crew members develop an appreciation for the small changes that occur even within seemingly repetitive routines, fostering a mindset that finds interest and engagement in the details of their extraordinary daily experience. Perhaps the most sophisticated approach to managing anxiety involves what might be called predictive emotional support systems. Personal quarters are equipped with non-invasive biometric sensors that track subtle physiological changes, heart rate variability, breathing patterns, even slight changes in skin conductivity that often precede conscious awareness of anxiety. These systems don't wait for astronauts to recognize they're becoming distressed. Instead, they automatically initiate subtle environmental adjustments when early signs of anxiety are detected. The lighting might gradually soften to a more calming hue. The ventilation system could increase airflow to prevent that stuffy feeling that sometimes accompanies anxiety. Or the ambient soundscape might shift to incorporate more rhythmic, soothing elements like gentle ocean waves or steady rainfall. These interventions happen so seamlessly that many astronauts only realize in retrospect that the system was helping them through a difficult moment, preventing anxiety from escalating into something that could impair their performance or well-being. The station's computer systems incorporate anxiety-reducing design principles at the software level as well. Every action an astronaut takes receives clear, immediate confirmation. Buttons provide tactile feedback, touchscreens show visual acknowledgement of inputs, and voice commands are met with verbal confirmation. This creates what psychologists call a closed loop of interaction where there's never any doubt about whether a command was received and executed. Error messages are carefully crafted to be informative without being alarming, explaining what went wrong in clear language and immediately presenting a set of actionable solutions rather than just highlighting the problem. Progress bars and status indicators provide constant reassurance that systems are functioning normally, turning abstract processes into visible, understandable operations. Even the daily schedules and task management systems are designed to minimize anxiety, producing uncertainty. Astronauts receive their schedules with clear time allocations, preparation requirements, and contingency plans built right into the planning interface. Unexpected changes are presented with explanations and adjusted timelines, preventing that disorienting feeling of having one's plans suddenly upended. The systems build in buffer time between complex tasks, recognizing that rushing from one high-stakes activity to another can create cumulative anxiety throughout the day. During particularly intense operational periods, the scheduling system might automatically insert brief mindfulness breaks or suggest a few minutes of earth-gazing small interventions that help maintain emotional equilibrium during demanding stretches. The materials and textures throughout the station are carefully selected for their anxiety-reducing properties as well. Surfaces that astronauts frequently touch, handrails, control interfaces, even meal packaging incorporate subtle textures that provide satisfying tactile feedback. This grounding sensory experience helps counter the floating, untethered feeling that can sometimes trigger anxiety in microgravity. The color palette extends beyond the visual spectrum into temperature as well, with warmer tones in relaxation areas and cooler, more focused lighting in work zones, helping astronauts subconsciously attune to the appropriate mindset for each environment. Emergency systems represent the ultimate expression of anxiety-informed design, transforming what could be panic-inducing situations into manageable procedures. Alarm systems use graduated alert levels that begin with gentle visual cues and soft auditory signals before escalating to more urgent warnings, giving astronauts time to respond before situations become critical. Emergency instructions are presented in clear, simple steps with visual diagrams that can be understood even under stress, and all critical controls are designed to be operated while wearing bulky gloves during pressurized situations. Practice drills are conducted frequently enough to build confidence but varied enough to prevent complacency, creating what psychologists call stress inoculation, the ability to perform under pressure because the procedures have become second nature through well-designed repetition. Perhaps most importantly, the station's design incorporates what might be called anxiety escape valves, small, simple actions that astronauts can take to immediately regain a sense of control when feeling overwhelmed. This might be a manual override switch for a personal environment control, the ability to temporarily simplify a complex display to just the most essential information, or even just a specially designed handhold that provides satisfying tactile feedback when gripped firmly. These small but significant design elements acknowledge that sometimes the best way to manage anxiety is through concrete, immediate actions that restore a sense of agency, however small, a psychological principle that proves just as important in space as it does on Earth. Consider the sheer volume of information constantly flowing through a space station. Thousands of data points from life support systems, structural integrity monitors, scientific experiments, communication networks, and navigation computers, all demanding attention simultaneously. In an environment where missing a single critical alert could have catastrophic consequences, the risk of cognitive overload isn't just an inconvenience, it's an existential threat that space station designers address through what they call cognitive off-ramps. These are carefully engineered systems that help astronauts manage the overwhelming flood of information without sacrificing situational awareness, creating a delicate balance between knowing everything and knowing only what truly matters in any given moment. The foundation of managing overwhelm begins with a revolutionary approach to alert systems. Unlike traditional warning systems that often bombard operators with simultaneous alarms, space stations employ what's known as a tiered or hierarchical alert structure. This system categorizes information into distinct levels of urgency, with only the most critical alerts, those requiring immediate action, triggering audible alarms. Less urgent notifications appear as visual cues on primary displays, while routine status updates are accessible through secondary interfaces or summarized in periodic reports. The system even includes what designers call contextual intelligence, meaning it understands what activities the crew is currently engaged in and adjusts alert priorities accordingly. During delicate experiment procedures, for instance, non-essential system notifications might be automatically suppressed to prevent unnecessary distractions, while during routine maintenance periods, those same notifications would appear normally. Control interface design represents another crucial layer in preventing cognitive overload. Rather than presenting astronauts with endless arrays of buttons, switches, and displays, modern space stations utilize what are called progressive disclosure interfaces. These systems show only the most essential controls and information during normal operations, with additional layers of complexity available through deliberate actions. Think of it like a smartphone's home screen versus its settings menu. During critical moments, astronauts see only what they need to see, but they can always dig deeper if the situation requires. The interfaces use consistent organizational patterns throughout the station, so once an astronaut learns one system's logic, they can apply that understanding to others, reducing the cognitive load of constantly learning new interfaces. Color coding systems transform overwhelming technical data into instantly understandable information through a universal visual language developed specifically for space environments. Each system category has its own color family. Environmental controls might use shades of blue, power systems utilize yellows and ambers, communication systems employ greens, and critical safety systems stand out in red. These aren't arbitrary choices, they're based on extensive research into how humans process color information under stress. The coding extends beyond simple status lights to include display backgrounds, control panel accents, and even the labeling on physical components, creating a cohesive visual system that helps astronauts quickly identify which systems require attention without needing to read detailed text descriptions. The acoustic environment plays an equally important role in managing overwhelm. Rather than using traditional blaring alarms that trigger startled responses, designers compose auditory signals that convey urgency through careful combinations of pitch, rhythm, and texture. Critical alerts might use a pulsed low-frequency tone that feels urgent without being panic-inducing, while important notifications could employ rising melodic sequences that capture attention more gently. The system even considers spatial audio properties, with different sounds seeming to originate from the direction of the relevant system, helping astronauts quickly orient toward the source of the alert. During high workload periods, the system can enter audio conservation mode, suppressing all but the most essential sounds to create a calmer auditory environment that reduces sensory overload. Perhaps the most innovative feature in modern space stations is what crews affectionately call the pause button, a physical control available at every workstation that temporarily simplifies the interface during high-stress situations. When activated, this function immediately reduces complex displays to just the 3 or 4 most critical data points, grays out non-essential controls, and mutes secondary notifications. This gives astronauts cognitive breathing room to focus on the immediate problem without being distracted by peripheral information. The system even includes a What Changed highlight feature that visually emphasizes the most recent developments, helping crew members quickly understand evolving situations without having to mentally process the entire display. Emergency procedures themselves are designed with built-in cognitive off-ramps that prevent the paralysis that can occur when facing too many options under pressure. Instead of presenting astronauts with endless contingency plans, procedures follow a decision tree structure that starts with simple binary choices. Is there a pressure leak? Yes or no, each answer leads to the next appropriate step, breaking complex emergencies into manageable chunks that can be handled sequentially rather than all at once. Critical steps are reinforced with multiple sensory cues, visual checklists, auditory confirmations, and even tactile feedback from controls that physically change resistance when important actions are required. This multi-sensory approach ensures that crucial steps aren't missed even when cognitive overload might make it difficult to process information through a single channel. Physical spaces dedicated to mental decompression provide perhaps the most direct solution to overwhelm. These aren't just recreational areas, they're carefully engineered environments designed to actively reduce cognitive load through controlled sensory input. One might feature a visual rest zone with minimal patterns and soft, uniform lighting that gives overstimulated eyes a break. Another might include an acoustic isolation booth where an astronaut can temporarily escape the constant hum of machinery. Even the station's hygiene facilities are designed with cognitive off-ramps in mind, providing private spaces where crew members can briefly disengage from the relentless flow of information without actually leaving their posts for extended periods. The scheduling and task management systems incorporate cognitive load theory directly into their design, automatically distributing complex tasks throughout the day to prevent mental fatigue. The systems monitor cumulative workload in real time, and if they detect that an astronaut is approaching cognitive saturation, perhaps through performance metrics on routine tasks or even voice stress analysis, they might automatically reschedule less critical activities or suggest a brief break. The systems also build in mandatory transition periods between high-intensity tasks, recognizing that the mental shift from one complex activity to another requires dedicated downtime that Earth-based workplaces often ignore. Training protocols reinforce these design features by teaching astronauts specific techniques for managing overwhelm before they ever reach orbit. Crew members practice information triage skills, learning to quickly identify what data matters most in any given situation. They train with simulated system failures that deliberately create cognitive overload scenarios, building mental resilience and teaching them to trust the station's cognitive off-ramps rather than trying to process everything simultaneously. This combination of thoughtful design and prepared minds creates a comprehensive system that acknowledges the very human limitation of how much information any person can process under pressure, then builds graceful solutions right into the fabric of the space station itself. Beyond the immediate psychological challenges of confinement and isolation lies a deeper, more persistent emotional experience that space station designers must address: the profound sense of nostalgia that inevitably settles in when humans are separated from their home planet for extended periods. This isn't simply missing family or favorite foods, it's a fundamental longing for the sensory experiences that define life on Earth, from the smell of rain on dry soil to the particular quality of light during a hometown sunset. Designers approach this emotional challenge by creating what they term emotional touchstones throughout the station, carefully crafted elements that provide comforting connections to Earth without overwhelming astronauts with homesickness. The most direct connection to home comes through strategically placed high-resolution monitors that display continuously updated views of Earth, but these are far more sophisticated than simple video feeds. The systems incorporate real-time weather data to show cloud patterns moving across familiar landscapes, track seasonal changes to display autumn foliage transitions or spring blooms in specific regions, and even coordinate with orbital mechanics to highlight particularly meaningful geographic features as the station passes overhead. The displays include overlay options that identify cities, natural landmarks, and even current cultural events happening below, transforming what could be a passive viewing experience into an interactive connection with the living planet. During night passes, the systems enhance city light patterns to show the familiar constellations of human civilization that astronauts remember from airplane windows or mountain overlooks back home. Perhaps the most innovative nostalgia management system involves carefully controlled scent diffusion technology that can release familiar Earth aromas throughout the station. These aren't simple air fresheners, they're precisely calibrated systems that release complex scent profiles triggered by specific events or schedules. An astronaut from the Pacific Northwest might wake to the subtle aroma of pine forests and damp Earth, while someone from Mediterranean regions might experience the herbal scent of thyme and olive groves during meal preparation times. The systems can recreate the distinctive smell of rain on hot pavement, the ocean breeze saltiness of coastal areas, or even the particular scent of autumn leaves that evokes childhood memories. These olfactory experiences prove remarkably powerful in combating nostalgia because smell connects directly to the brain's memory and emotion centers, providing instant emotional transportation back to comforting Earth environments. Meal preparation areas receive particular attention as centers of cultural connection and nostalgia management. Unlike early space missions where food came exclusively in sterile packages, modern stations include preparation spaces that allow astronauts to engage in cooking traditions from their home cultures. The areas feature rehydratable ingredients that can be combined in creative ways, simple heating elements for preparing multi-component meals, and even small growing pods for fresh herbs that provide both visual greenery and familiar tastes. Special occasion meals feature traditional dishes from crew members' home countries, with packaging that includes stories about the cultural significance of each dish. The act of preparing and sharing these meals becomes a ritual that connects astronauts to their earthly identities while creating new cultural exchanges among international crew members. Personal storage systems include dedicated space for physical mementos that serve as tangible connections to life on Earth. These aren't just photograph albums. Astronauts bring items with particular tactile qualities that evoke strong memories. A piece of stone from a favorite hiking trail, a child's handmade pottery creation, a section of fabric from a wedding dress, or even specially treated items that retain familiar household smells. The storage displays are designed to make these items visible and accessible, with small LED lighting elements that highlight them without creating visual clutter. Some astronauts create miniature curated displays that they can see from their sleeping stations, providing comforting visual reminders of home as they begin and end each day. Communal areas feature advanced projection systems that can temporarily transform sections of the station into familiar Earth environments. These aren't just background images, they're immersive experiences that include coordinated lighting, soundscapes, and even temperature adjustments to recreate specific places and times. The crew might gather for an evening meeting in a digital recreation of a Japanese garden during cherry blossom season, complete with appropriate ambient sounds and subtle scent elements. Or they might celebrate a holiday by projecting a familiar hometown square decorated for the occasion, with recordings of actual sounds from that location playing through directional speakers. These temporary environment transformations provide powerful emotional reset opportunities during long missions, helping combat the metallic sameness of the station interior. Even the water recycling systems, one of the most technically complex aspects of space station operation, receive attention from nostalgia perspective. Early space stations had distinctly chemical-tasting water that constantly reminded astronauts they were drinking reprocessed fluid, including their own sweat and respiration moisture. Modern systems incorporate multiple filtration stages that remove not just contaminants, but also the particular taste profiles that signal recycled water. The final product includes careful mineral rebalancing to match the taste of high-quality Earth drinking water, and some stations even offer slight regional variations. One dispenser might provide water with the crisp profile of mountain springs, while another offers the slightly mineral-heavy taste that reminds European astronauts of their hometown tap water. This attention to what might seem like a minor detail makes a significant psychological difference, eliminating a constant reminder of the artificiality of their environment. Living in such tight quarters for months on end means that even the smallest irritations can grow into significant conflicts if left unaddressed, which is why space station designers dedicate enormous attention to what they call friction reduction strategies. They approach irritability not as a personal failing but as an inevitable consequence of the environment, systematically engineering solutions that eliminate common triggers before they ever become problems. This proactive design philosophy recognizes that in space, there's no option to simply walk away and cool off. Every potential point of friction must be anticipated and designed out of the system. Personal climate control represents one of the most effective weapons against the daily irritations that can arise from different temperature preferences. Rather than having a single thermostat for an entire module, designers create microclimate zones with individual airflow controls at each workstation and sleeping station. An astronaut who prefers cooler temperatures can adjust their immediate environment without affecting a crew member just meters away who might prefer warmth. These systems include visual indicators that show each person's current settings, making preferences visible and reducing misunderstandings about why certain areas feel different. The technology even learns individual patterns over time, automatically adjusting to preferred temperatures during work hours and slightly cooler settings during sleep periods, eliminating the need for constant manual adjustments that might create friction. Storage systems receive meticulous attention to prevent the kinds of territorial disputes that naturally occur when people share tight spaces. Each crew member receives clearly defined personal storage areas with distinctive color-coded boundaries and personalized locking mechanisms. Common equipment storage utilizes transparent containers with designated shapes for specific items, making it immediately obvious where everything belongs and who might have misplaced something. The systems include inventory tracking that can quickly locate any item, preventing the frustration of searching through shared spaces. Even the smallest personal items have dedicated homes with magnetic surfaces, elastic restraints, and custom-fit compartments that keep everything organized in microgravity without constant effort from the crew. Noise management goes far beyond simple volume control, addressing the particular types of sounds that prove most irritating in confined environments. Personal quarters feature active noise-canceling technology that creates personalized quiet zones, allowing astronauts to block out the constant hum of machinery or the sound of nearby conversations. The systems can be tuned to individual preferences. Some might choose to eliminate all background noise, while others prefer to maintain awareness of certain important system sounds. Common areas incorporate directional speakers that create focused sound fields, allowing multiple conversations to occur without overlapping and creating acoustic privacy even in open spaces. Even the alert systems use different tonal qualities for different types of notifications, ensuring that no single sound becomes overly annoying through constant repetition. Social space design acknowledges that irritability often stems from either too much or too little social interaction, so designers create environments that allow crew members to self-regulate their social exposure. Common areas feature multiple conversation zones with varying degrees of privacy, some with comfortable seating arranged for intimate conversations, others with more formal arrangements for group discussions, and quiet corners designed for individual contemplation while still being present in the social environment. The lighting in these areas can be adjusted to create more energetic or more relaxed atmospheres depending on the crew's needs. These design choices allow astronauts to find their optimal social balance moment to moment rather than being forced into either isolation or constant togetherness. Workstation design incorporates personalized adjustment ranges that prevent conflicts over equipment settings. Each console remembers individual preferences for display brightness, interface layout, and even control sensitivity, automatically configuring itself when a particular astronaut logs in. The systems include permission-based sharing that allows crew members to temporarily adjust shared equipment for specific tasks while ensuring everything returns to neutral settings afterward. This personalization extends to seemingly minor details like keyboard tension, screen contrast, and even the tactile feedback from controls, all recognizing that persistent small irritations can accumulate into significant stress over time. Hygiene facilities represent a masterclass in friction reduction, with designs that accommodate different personal rhythms and routines without conflict. Instead of a single multipurpose bathroom, stations feature separate preparation areas with personal storage for toiletries, cleaning stations with organized supplies, and private sanitation facilities. This separation means one astronaut can be brushing teeth while another showers and a third uses the toilet, all without interfering with each other's routines. The scheduling systems include flexible time blocks rather than fixed assignments, accommodating natural variations in sleep patterns and personal preferences. Even the water pressure and temperature controls include memory functions that recall individual preferences, eliminating the daily adjustment process that might create minor frustrations. The materials themselves are chosen for their friction-reducing properties, surfaces that don't show fingerprints, fabrics that resist staining and are easy to clean, and finishes that don't create distracting reflections or glare. Tools feature ergonomic designs that minimize hand fatigue, storage containers open smoothly without sticking, and even food packaging is designed to open easily without creating crumbs or messes. Everywhere you look, designers have identified potential points of daily irritation and engineered them out of existence. Perhaps most importantly, the station's design includes systems that help astronauts recognize and manage their own irritability before it affects others. Personal quarters include mood lighting options that can help shift emotional states, while common areas feature discrete indicators that allow crew members to non-verbally communicate their current need for space or interaction. The scheduling systems build in mandatory personal time and ensure that workloads are distributed in ways that prevent cumulative stress. Even the communication systems include tone analysis features that can suggest rewording messages that might come across as irritable due to fatigue or stress. This comprehensive approach to friction reduction demonstrates a profound understanding of human nature, that sometimes the biggest challenges of spaceflight aren't the dramatic emergencies but the accumulated weight of countless minor irritations. By designing these out of the environment, space station creators ensure that crew members can focus their emotional energy on the extraordinary challenges of living in space rather than wasting it on the ordinary frustrations of living with other people. While the sensation of awe at seeing our planet suspended in the infinite blackness of space represents one of the most profound rewards of spaceflight, station designers understand that this powerful emotion requires careful management to prevent it from compromising mission safety. The view of Earth from orbit is so staggeringly beautiful, so fundamentally overwhelming to human perception, that astronauts consistently report it as a life-altering experience, but during critical operations, that same awe can become a dangerous distraction. Designers approach this challenge not by diminishing the experience, but by creating what might be called awe architecture, spatial and temporal frameworks that contain the experience within appropriate boundaries while preserving its transformative power. The strategic placement of windows represents the most direct method for managing awe experiences. Rather than scattering viewing opportunities randomly throughout the station, designers concentrate them in specific non-work areas deliberately separated from operational zones. The famous cupola module on the International Space Station exemplifies this approach, a 7-window observatory purposefully located away from primary workstations, requiring astronauts to make a conscious decision to visit rather than being constantly tempted by incidental views. This physical separation creates a psychological distinction between work mode and contemplation mode, allowing crew members to fully immerse themselves in the awe experience during appropriate downtime without that distraction lingering during critical tasks. The journey to these viewing areas itself becomes part of the experience, building anticipation and creating a sense of occasion around each awe session. When astronauts do engage with these spectacular views, the experience is carefully graduated to help them acclimate to the emotional impact. Initial viewings are often brief and guided, with more experienced crew members helping newcomers process the overwhelming sensory input. The station's training protocols include what astronauts call awe preparation, a virtual reality simulations that gradually introduce the visual scale and emotional impact of the Earth view before crew members ever launch. Once in orbit, viewing sequences might start with less overwhelming perspectives, perhaps looking straight down at familiar continents, rather than taking in the full curvature of the planet before progressing to more expansive vistas. This graduated exposure helps prevent what psychologists call awe overload, where the experience becomes so overwhelming that it triggers disorientation or emotional shutdown rather than inspiration. The physical design of observation areas incorporates subtle safety features that protect astronauts during moments of profound emotional experience. Handrails are strategically positioned not just for physical stability but for psychological anchoring, providing something solid to hold onto when the visual experience threatens to feel overwhelming. Flooring textures change approaching windows, providing tactile warning that crew members are entering areas requiring heightened awareness. Restraint systems allow astronauts to secure themselves comfortably without struggling against microgravity drift, freeing them to fully absorb the view without worrying about floating away. Even the seating and leaning surfaces are contoured to support the body in positions that feel both secure and open to the experience, recognizing that physical comfort enhances emotional receptivity. Lighting engineers perform remarkable balancing acts around viewing areas, calibrating illumination to prevent glare while maintaining the dramatic impact of the scene outside. The windows themselves incorporate adjustable filters that can dim the overwhelming brightness of sunlight reflecting off clouds and oceans without washing out the color saturation that makes the view so breathtaking. Interior lighting uses indirect illumination techniques that eliminate reflections on the glass while providing enough light for astronauts to see their surroundings and maintain spatial orientation. The systems can automatically adjust based on what's being viewed, brightening slightly when looking at the night side of Earth to maintain visual connection with the station interior, or dimming when observing the brilliant daytime planet to enhance contrast and detail. This technical precision ensures the view remains visually accessible without becoming uncomfortably intense. Perhaps the most sophisticated awe management system involves what mission planners call viewing protocols, structured approaches to Earth observation that maximize the benefits while minimizing operational disruption. The station's scheduling system includes designated awe periods that align with particularly spectacular orbital passes, such as sunrise over the Himalayas or night passes showing city lights across Europe. These are treated as important psychological maintenance activities rather than optional leisure, with mission control sometimes actively reminding crews to take their scheduled viewing time. During critical operation periods, however, the communication systems include gentle reminders if sensors detect an astronaut gazing outward for extended periods. These alerts aren't reprimands but rather helpful nudges, perhaps a quiet tone followed by a display showing the next available viewing window in the schedule, reinforcing that the experience will be available later when it won't conflict with important work. The balanced designer's strike acknowledges that awe serves vital psychological functions beyond mere entertainment. The experience provides perspective that helps astronauts through difficult moments, reinforces their connection to the planet they've temporarily left, and offers profound meaning that sustains them through the challenges of spaceflight. By creating frameworks that allow these experiences to happen at the right times and in the right ways, station designers transform what could be an operational liability into a powerful psychological resource. The result is an environment where astronauts can periodically touch the sublime without losing their connection to the practical demands of keeping themselves and their station functioning in the void. Perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated approach to combating helplessness involves what designers call graduated emergency systems that provide astronauts with escalating levels of control as situations develop. Rather than presenting crew members with all possible options simultaneously, which can itself create paralysis, emergency procedures are structured in tiers that begin with simple, clearly effective initial responses before progressing to more complex solutions. A pressure leak scenario might start with just two obvious steps: don the nearest emergency mask and move to the next module. Only after these initial actions are completed does the system reveal the next set of options for locating and addressing the leak source. This tiered approach creates what psychologists call success momentum, where each small accomplishment builds confidence for tackling the next challenge, systematically dismantling feelings of helplessness through demonstrated competence. The physical layout of the station itself serves as a powerful antidote to helplessness through deliberate sightline planning and spatial relationships. Designers ensure that no crew member is ever more than a few seconds from visual or auditory contact with at least one other person, creating what amounts to a constant safety net of human presence. This isn't accomplished through surveillance, but through careful architectural planning. Workstations are positioned with overlapping sightlines, passageways curved gently to maintain visual connection between modules, and even personal quarters include communication panels that can instantly connect to any other location on the station. The acoustic properties of each area are tuned to carry human voices at just the right volume, ensuring that help is always within earshot without sacrificing privacy during normal operations. This constant awareness of available support provides psychological security without creating dependence, knowing assistance is near by if needed but not required for routine activities. Communication systems with ground control strike a delicate balance between providing expert support and preserving astronaut autonomy. The systems are designed to deliver immediate access to Earth-based experts without making astronauts feel like they're simply following remote instructions. Instead of one-way directives, the communication protocol emphasizes collaborative problem-solving, with ground controllers providing options and information while the crew maintains decision-making authority. The interface design reinforces this partnership. Screens show both the astronauts' actions and the ground team's suggestions side by side, creating a visual representation of shared responsibility. During simulations and training, astronauts practice taking the lead in emergencies while ground support plays a supporting role, building the confidence needed to trust their own judgment when seconds count. Personal environment control panels in living quarters might seem like a minor feature, but they serve a crucial psychological function in maintaining daily agency. These interfaces allow astronauts to adjust lighting, color, temperature, airflow direction and speed, acoustic ambience, and even display preferences in their immediate surroundings. The systems provide immediate, tangible feedback. Change the lighting and you see the effect instantly. Adjust the airflow and feel the difference immediately. This cause and effect relationship reinforces the fundamental psychological principle that actions produce results, countering the helplessness that can develop when living in an environment where most systems operate automatically. The ability to personalize even small aspects of their environment helps astronauts maintain their individual identity and sense of control amid the highly structured routine of space station life. Training protocols systematically build what psychologists call self-efficacy through carefully structured success experiences. Instead of focusing primarily on failure scenarios during simulations, trainers create emergencies that are challenging but ultimately manageable, ensuring astronauts complete each exercise with a sense of accomplishment. The debriefing process emphasizes what the crew did correctly rather than dwelling on mistakes. And when errors do occur, instructors frame them as learning opportunities rather than failures. This positive reinforcement approach continues during actual missions, with ground controllers regularly highlighting successful problem-solving and acknowledging crew initiatives. The station's computer systems even include competence tracking features that subtly record and display progress in mastering various systems, providing visual evidence of growing capabilities throughout the mission. Perhaps the most innovative feature combating helplessness is what engineers call the manual override mythology, the deliberate inclusion of physical backup systems even when digital controls are perfectly reliable. These aren't just functional redundancies, they're psychological safety nets that reassure astronauts that ultimate control remains in human hands. The satisfying tactile feedback of flipping a physical switch or turning a mechanical valve provides tangible proof of agency that touchscreen interfaces cannot match. Designers understand that during high-stress situations, the physical act of manipulating a sturdy, well-designed mechanical control can itself reduce anxiety by engaging the body in purposeful action. These manual systems are often beautifully engineered, precisely machined components that move with satisfying smoothness, designed to feel reliable and authoritative in the hand. This attention to the sensory experience of control transforms emergency procedures from abstract digital processes into concrete physical actions, reinforcing the fundamental message that even in the most advanced technological environment, human agency remains paramount. Moving beyond the critical need for individual agency and control, space station designers recognize that survival in orbit depends just as much on the strength of social bonds as on technical competence. This brings us to the deliberate cultivation of camaraderie not as a hoped-for byproduct of crew selection, but as an actively engineered outcome built into the very architecture of the space station itself. Designers approach this emotional need through what they term forced collaboration strategies, creating environments and systems that make social bonding not just possible but practically inevitable, understanding that in the extreme isolation of space, teammates must become family for missions to succeed. The most straightforward application of this principle appears in workstation design, where certain critical operations literally require two people working in concert to complete. These aren't just safety redundancies, they're psychological interventions disguised as technical requirements. Consider a scientific experiment interface where one crew member must stabilize a sample while another operates the imaging controls, or a maintenance panel designed so one person holds access open while another performs the internal work. The physical positioning for these tasks often face crew members toward each other rather than side by side, encouraging eye contact and verbal coordination. The systems provide immediate feedback when collaboration succeeds. Completing a two-person procedure often triggers a satisfying confirmation tone or visual indicator that reinforces the accomplishment as shared success. This transforms necessary tasks into relationship-building opportunities, creating what psychologists call shared mastery experiences that form the foundation of deep trust. Meal preparation areas receive particular attention as natural collaboration zones, designed to make cooking a team sport rather than a solitary activity. The galley layout typically features multiple preparation stations arranged in a circular pattern facing a central gathering area, ensuring that anyone working there naturally interacts with others. Equipment is stored in ways that encourage sharing, perhaps a spice rack that requires passing between stations, or a water dispenser positioned to create natural meeting points. The design includes what kitchen experts call the triangle principle from Earth-based kitchens, but modified to create multiple overlapping triangles that ensure crew members frequently cross paths. Even the meal packaging itself often requires cooperative opening or preparation, turning the simple act of making dinner into a daily exercise in teamwork and coordination. Recreation systems take cooperative design to sophisticated levels, with games and leisure activities specifically engineered to require partnership rather than supporting solitary play. Exercise equipment might include synchronized cycling programs where crew members must maintain coordinated pedaling rhythms to unlock virtual reality scenarios. Puzzle games feature physical components that must be manipulated simultaneously by multiple people to solve. Even movie viewing becomes collaborative through systems that require agreement on content selection and viewing times, with comfortable seating arrangements that encourage physical proximity and shared reactions. These aren't just entertainment, they're relationship-building exercises disguised as leisure, creating shared memories and inside jokes that form the emotional glue binding crews together during long missions. The architecture itself fosters camaraderie through deliberate gathering points strategically placed at module junctions. These aren't accidental open spaces but carefully designed social condensers that naturally draw people together. A passageway might widen slightly near a popular workstation, creating just enough room for 2 or 3 people to float comfortably while conversing. Storage areas are often positioned to create casual meeting points, with frequently accessed supplies placed in locations that ensure crew members regularly encounter each other. Even the handhold patterns along passageways are designed to naturally slow movement at certain points, creating opportunities for brief exchanges that might not happen if everyone could move quickly through the station. These architectural nudges create what urban planners call desire paths for social interaction, making casual connection easier than isolation. Acoustic engineering plays a surprisingly important role in fostering meaningful social bonds. Common areas feature sound-absorbing materials and precisely angled surfaces that create intimate acoustic environments even in relatively open spaces. The systems can detect when conversations are occurring and subtly adjust background noise levels to ensure speech remains clear without requiring raised voices. In dining and recreation areas, the acoustic properties might be tuned to enhance laughter and other positive social sounds, making interactions feel more vibrant and enjoyable. Private conversations are protected through strategic sound masking that prevents words from carrying too far, giving crew members confidence to share personal thoughts without fear of being overheard by the entire station. This careful management of the auditory environment ensures that social interactions feel rewarding rather than exhausting, encouraging crew members to seek out company rather than retreating to isolation. Perhaps the most sophisticated application of camaraderie engineering appears in emergency training scenarios, which are designed not just to practice technical responses but to systematically build trust and interdependence. Each crew member receives specific roles that highlight their unique expertise while making them dependent on others for complementary skills. A drill might require the medical officer to guide the engineer through a medical procedure, or the pilot to rely on the scientist for calculating emergency trajectory adjustments. These scenarios are deliberately constructed to create what psychologists call competence dependency, where each person recognizes both their own value and their need for others' capabilities. The debriefing process emphasizes how the team succeeded together rather than focusing on individual performance, reinforcing the message that survival itself is a collective endeavor. The scheduling systems themselves build camaraderie through what designers call structured serendipity, intentionally overlapping individual routines to create natural opportunities for connection. Meal times are coordinated to ensure the entire crew eats together at least once daily, with the system automatically adjusting individual task timelines to protect this communal time. Exercise schedules pair crew members with different fitness specialties together, creating natural coaching relationships. Even sleep cycles are slightly overlapped to ensure there's always a period when most crew members are awake together, preventing the isolation that can occur when people keep completely different hours. This careful orchestration of time ensures that social bonds have opportunities to form and strengthen throughout the mission, not just during designated off hours. Personal space design strikes a delicate balance between providing necessary privacy and encouraging social connection. Sleeping quarters are comfortable but intentionally compact, making common areas more appealing for extended relaxation. Personal storage includes not just private spaces but visible areas where crew members can display items that invite conversation, perhaps photos from home, cultural artifacts, or personal projects. The lighting systems can indicate when someone is open to social interaction, perhaps a gentle blue glow near their quarters when they're available to talk, shifting to amber when they need private time. These subtle signals help crew members navigate social needs without awkwardness, creating an environment where connection feels welcome rather than intrusive. The ultimate expression of camaraderie engineering might be the station's celebration systems, designed to help crews mark milestones and create shared traditions. Special occasion meals include packaging that requires group opening, turning birthdays and holidays into collaborative events. The communication systems make it easy to include ground teams in celebrations, projecting mission control onto screens in common areas so Earth-based support staff can participate in cake cutting or toast-making rituals. Display systems track mission milestones with visual countdowns that give the entire crew shared goals to anticipate together. These celebration mechanisms transform the station from a workplace into a community, creating the shared history and traditions that define any successful group living situation, whether orbiting Earth or rooted firmly on its surface. Even in the most advanced technological environment humanity has ever created, frustration remains an inevitable part of daily life, especially when critical equipment malfunctions or complex experiments fail despite meticulous planning. Space station designers approach this universal human emotion not as something to be eliminated, but as a predictable response that must be channeled productively through what they term frustration ventilation systems. These sophisticated psychological safety features acknowledge that in the high-stakes environment of space, suppressed frustration can quickly escalate into impaired judgment or crew conflict, so they create structured outlets that allow astronauts to acknowledge and release these feelings without compromising mission safety or professional relationships. The most direct expression of this philosophy appears in the strategically placed soundproof chambers scattered throughout the station's modules. These aren't merely empty closets, but carefully engineered emotional decompression zones equipped with acoustic damping materials that absorb even the loudest shouts without a trace of sound escaping. Some feature padded surfaces that can withstand vigorous physical expression, while others include digital stress release systems where astronauts can play frustration venting games designed specifically for emotional catharsis. One particularly popular station features a virtual reality setup that transforms angry energy into spectacular digital explosions, completely harmless but visually satisfying releases that leave no physical mess to clean up. These spaces are treated with the same respect as medical bays, recognized as essential tools for maintaining psychological health in an environment where there's literally nowhere to go to blow off steam privately. When frustration arises from equipment malfunctions or complex repairs, the maintenance procedures themselves are designed to transform potential anger into manageable challenges through what engineers call troubleshooting trees. These aren't simple step-by-step instructions but psychologically sophisticated roadmaps that break overwhelming problems into smaller, achievable milestones. Each successful step triggers positive feedback, a satisfying tone, a green checkmark animation, or sometimes even small physical rewards like unlocking a compartment with a special tool or treat. The systems are designed to provide what psychologists term small wins throughout the repair process, creating a sense of forward momentum even when the overall problem remains unresolved. This approach recognizes that frustration often stems from feeling stuck, so the procedures constantly demonstrate progress rather than focusing on how much remains to be done. The physical design of tools and interfaces plays a crucial role in minimizing frustration before it even begins. Each tool is ergonomically crafted to fit comfortably in the hand even when wearing pressurized gloves, with balanced weight distribution and textured grips that prevent slipping. Fasteners are designed to engage with satisfying tactile clicks, and connectors feature obvious visual and tactile indicators that ensure proper alignment before engagement. The tool kits themselves are organized with intuitive color coding and shaped compartments that make finding the right tool immediate rather than a search mission. These might seem like small details, but when you're floating in microgravity trying to repair a critical system while your gloves reduce dexterity, a tool that feels right in your hand can mean the difference between manageable challenge and overwhelming frustration. Workstation interfaces incorporate progress tracking systems that subtly emphasize accomplishment over remaining tasks. Instead of showing a long checklist with many unchecked items, displays might use progress bar visualizations that fill as tasks are completed or percentage counters that steadily climb upward. Completed items remain visible but are visually minimized, while the next immediate task is highlighted with clear, achievable steps. The systems sometimes include motivational elements that recognize milestones, perhaps displaying a congratulatory message when a repair reaches the halfway point or showing how much time has been saved through efficient work. This constant feedback reinforces that progress is being made, countering the frustration that can arise when complex repairs seem to be taking too long. Communication systems with mission control are carefully designed to validate frustration before moving to technical solutions, a psychological approach that dramatically improves problem-solving effectiveness. When an astronaut reports a difficult situation, ground controllers are trained to first acknowledge the emotional component with phrases like, "That sounds incredibly frustrating," or "We understand how challenging that must be." This validation, which takes only seconds, creates psychological safety that actually enhances subsequent technical communication. The interfaces themselves include features that help ground controllers understand the astronaut's emotional state, perhaps a stress level indicator based on voice pattern analysis, or an option for the astronaut to manually set a frustration meter that appears on ground control displays. This shared awareness allows both parties to adjust their communication approach accordingly, preventing the misunderstandings that can occur when frustration goes unacknowledged. Even the scheduling systems incorporate frustration management by building in flexibility for unexpected challenges. When a repair takes longer than anticipated, the system automatically reschedules less critical tasks rather than simply compressing the entire day's timeline. This prevents the cascade effect where one frustration leads to rushing through subsequent tasks, which often creates more problems and more frustration. The systems also identify patterns. If a particular type of equipment frequently causes difficulties, it might trigger a redesign request or schedule additional training before the next maintenance window. This data-driven approach to frustration management treats recurring issues as system problems rather than individual failures, creating solutions that benefit all future crews. The station's design even acknowledges that sometimes the best response to frustration is temporary disengagement. Workstations include pause buttons that can temporarily simplify complex interfaces to just the most essential functions, giving overwhelmed astronauts a cognitive breather. The systems might suggest alternative approaches when they detect repeated failed attempts at a solution, or even recommend handing off to another crew member when frustration levels appear counterproductive. This isn't seen as failure, but as smart resource management, recognizing that sometimes the most efficient solution to frustration is fresh perspective rather than stubborn persistence. Perhaps the most sophisticated frustration management system involves what astronauts call the reset button, a designated procedure that can be initiated when a repair situation becomes completely stuck. This isn't an actual button, but a structured process where the crew member systematically steps back from the problem, engages in a brief cognitive reset activity, perhaps a few minutes of Earth gazing or a simple physical task, then returns to the problem with a fresh approach. The system provides guided breathing exercises or quick perspective shifting prompts that help astronauts move from frustrated fixation to creative problem solving. This formalized approach to stepping back prevents the tunnel vision that often accompanies high frustration, transforming emotional heat into renewed focus and energy. Amid the demanding routines and high-stakes environment of space station life, designers recognize that contentment isn't a passive state but an active achievement that must be deliberately engineered into daily existence. They approach this emotional need with remarkable sophistication, creating what might be called micro-luxuries, small but significant enhancements that transform the Spartan reality of space, living into an experience that regularly delivers genuine satisfaction and peace. This isn't about extravagance, it's about understanding that in an environment where every resource is precious and every action has consequences, moments of contentment become crucial psychological resources that sustain crew members through the challenges of long-duration missions. The lighting systems represent perhaps the most comprehensive contentment engineering technology aboard modern space stations. Far beyond simple on-off switches, these sophisticated arrays simulate the full progression of a natural Earth day, complete with the subtle color temperature shifts that our brains instinctively recognize as part of healthy circadian rhythms. The systems include what designers call the golden hour program, a carefully calibrated 30-minute period where lighting gradually warms to simulate the rich, amber tones of late afternoon sunlight, then slowly cools toward evening hues. This isn't merely aesthetic. Research shows that exposure to these specific light patterns triggers neurological responses associated with relaxation and satisfaction, helping astronauts wind down naturally after demanding work periods. The lighting even includes subtle dappling effects that mimic sunlight filtering through leaves, creating unconscious connections to pleasant Earth experiences that few astronauts can articulate but most report finding deeply comforting. Furniture design in microgravity requires completely rethinking conventional comfort, leading to the creation of what engineers call body-conforming relaxation nooks. These aren't chairs or beds in the Earth sense, but rather specially shaped surfaces and restraints that allow astronauts to float in positions that minimize muscle strain while providing gentle, even pressure across the body. Some feature memory foam-like materials that gradually adjust to individual body shapes, while others use strategic netting and harness systems that create the sensation of being cradled without confinement. These nooks are strategically positioned throughout the station, not just in private quarters, but in quiet corners of work modules where astronauts can take brief but effective mental breaks without fully disengaging from their duties. The placement often takes advantage of pleasant views or acoustic privacy, creating small oases of calm amid the busy station environment. Meal experiences receive extraordinary attention as opportunities for contentment cultivation, transforming what could be purely functional nutrition into daily rituals of pleasure and satisfaction. Food scientists work with psychologists to create varied texture experiences within the constraints of space, safe food preparation, crispy elements that retain their crunch despite packaging, creamy components that provide smooth mouthfeel, and chewy items that require satisfying jaw effort. Presentation matters tremendously, with meals arranged on specialized trays that use dividers and elevation to create visual appeal rather than everything lying flat. Color variety is carefully considered, ensuring that each meal includes a spectrum of visually appealing hues rather than the monochromatic browns that often characterize prepared foods. Even the opening of food packages is designed to provide satisfaction. Some feature peel-back seals that make a pleasing tearing sound, while others have press-to-open mechanisms that give tactile feedback before revealing their contents. Personal quarters incorporate multi-sensory contentment systems that allow astronauts to customize their environment for maximum relaxation. Mood lighting options include not just color choices but dynamic patterns that can simulate everything from northern lights displays to gentle cloud movements across a virtual sky. Sound systems are calibrated specifically for the acoustic properties of each sleep station, with speakers positioned to create immersive soundscapes without vibration transfer to adjacent modules. The systems include curated content ranging from binaural beats designed to encourage restful sleep to ambient recordings of Earth environments like rainforests or gentle ocean waves. Some astronauts program these systems to match their personal relaxation preferences. One might create a mountain cabin ambience with cool lighting and pine forest sounds, while another prefers warm desert tones with distant thunderstorm recordings. Communal areas feature what climate engineers call comfort-optimized temperature zones that acknowledge individual preferences while encouraging social connection. Rather than maintaining a single uniform temperature throughout large modules, these systems create subtle microclimates with variations of just a few degrees. One seating area might be slightly cooler for astronauts who prefer crisp air, while another offers warmer temperatures for those who find comfort in coziness. The systems monitor occupancy and adjust automatically. If several crew members gather in one area, the temperature might gradually optimize for group comfort rather than individual preference. Humidity levels are similarly managed, with some areas maintained slightly drier for clarity and others slightly more humid for respiratory comfort, all within the narrow bands required for equipment safety. For stations equipped with water showers, still a luxury rather than standard equipment, the experience is engineered to provide profound moments of earthly connection through meticulous attention to hydraulic details. The systems feature pressure controls that can replicate everything from gentle rainfall to vigorous massage settings, with pulse patterns designed to relieve muscle tension accumulated during strenuous space workouts. Temperature regulation maintains precision within 1 degree of selected preference, eliminating the frustrating fluctuations that often characterize Earth showers. The water itself is treated to feel soft and silky rather than chemically neutral, with slight mineral additions that mimic the feel of natural spring water. The enclosure designs include features that contain the water effectively in microgravity, while still creating the psychological sensation of abundance and flow that Earth dwellers take for granted. These daily showers become not just hygiene routines but cherished rituals that reconnect astronauts with simple earthly pleasures they might never have appreciated before their space missions. The cumulative effect of these contentment engineering strategies creates what psychologists call a background of satisfaction that supports overall mission success in ways that are difficult to measure but undeniably real. By ensuring that astronauts regularly experience genuine pleasure and peace amid their extraordinary circumstances, space station designers help maintain the emotional resilience required for working at the peak of human capability while separated from everything familiar. These moments of contentment become psychological anchor points that crew members can return to mentally during challenging periods, knowing that comfort and satisfaction are always available within their carefully crafted environment. While managing frustration and cultivating contentment address the emotional challenges of space station life, designers simultaneously harness one of humanity's most powerful driving forces, the innate curiosity that has propelled our species to explore the unknown in the first place. Space stations represent the ultimate expression of scientific curiosity, and their design reflects this purpose through what engineers term discovery architecture, an approach that transforms every aspect of the orbital environment into an opportunity for intellectual engagement and learning. This isn't just about providing research facilities, it's about creating an ecosystem that constantly stimulates inquiry and makes the process of discovery visible and accessible to everyone aboard, regardless of their specific role or expertise. The most visible expression of this philosophy appears in the strategic use of transparent panels throughout experimental equipment, turning what would normally be hidden mechanical processes into fascinating visual experiences. Imagine floating past a biology experiment and seeing actual tissue samples growing in their nutrient solutions, or watching a fluid physics investigation through crystal-clear viewports that reveal the strange behavior of liquids in microgravity. These viewing opportunities aren't accidental, they're deliberately engineered into equipment that would traditionally be completely enclosed, with designers working alongside scientists to identify the most educationally valuable aspects to make visible. The transparent materials themselves represent engineering marvels, using special coatings that maintain clarity despite constant handling, while providing necessary protection against ultraviolet radiation or thermal extremes. Lighting systems are carefully integrated to illuminate these viewing areas without creating glare or interfering with the experiments themselves, ensuring that the educational value doesn't compromise the scientific integrity. Workstation design takes adjustability to sophisticated levels to accommodate different learning styles and perspectives. A single research console might allow an astronaut to physically reconfigure monitor positions, camera angles, and even control panel layouts to suit their preferred way of interacting with an experiment. One researcher might prefer a panoramic view showing multiple data streams simultaneously, while another might want to focus intensely on a single high-resolution display. The systems remember individual preferences, automatically configuring themselves when different crew members approach, recognizing that curiosity flourishes when people can engage with information in ways that feel natural to them. The adjustable components aren't just functional, they're designed to feel satisfying to manipulate, with precise movement mechanisms and tactile feedback that make the process of setting up one's ideal workspace itself an engaging experience. Augmented reality systems represent perhaps the most advanced tool for cultivating curiosity, overlaying rich informational displays onto the physical environment through lightweight heads-up displays or projection technologies. An astronaut examining a complex piece of equipment might see animated diagrams showing internal components that would otherwise be invisible, complete with data overlays indicating temperature, pressure, or other vital statistics. During experiments, these systems can highlight particularly interesting phenomena that might otherwise go unnoticed, perhaps circling an unexpected crystal formation in a materials science experiment, or identifying a rare microorganism in a biology study. The augmented reality interfaces include intuitive gesture controls that feel natural in microgravity, allowing crew members to call up additional information, zoom in on details, or even leave virtual notes for their colleagues without ever touching a physical interface. These systems create what astronauts describe as a sense of seeing the invisible, revealing the hidden complexities and wonders of their environment in ways that constantly spark new questions and ideas. Common areas throughout the station serve as informal science centers, with rotating displays that showcase crew research findings in engaging, accessible formats. These aren't dry scientific posters, but interactive exhibits designed for quick consumption during meal breaks or between tasks. One might feature a touchscreen display showing stunning microscopic images from recent experiments, with simple explanations of their significance. Another might include physical samples from ongoing research, perhaps a newly formed crystal or a material tested in space conditions, mounted in ways that allow crew members to examine them closely. The content refreshes automatically as experiments progress, creating a living museum of the station's scientific work. The displays often include why this matters, explanations that connect specific experiments to broader Earth applications, helping astronauts see how their work contributes to medical advances, technological innovations, or environmental understanding back home. Personal terminals provide gateways to vast scientific resources, offering access to research databases, Earth-based experiment updates, and even live feeds from other scientific facilities around the world. These systems include sophisticated recommendation engines that suggest related research based on what each astronaut is currently working on, helping them make unexpected connections between different fields of study. The interfaces can summarize complex research papers into accessible overviews, allowing crew members to stay current with developments outside their immediate specialties. During downtime, astronauts can explore virtual laboratories on Earth, watching their colleagues conduct parallel experiments under gravity's influence to better understand how microgravity is affecting their own work. This constant connection to the broader scientific community helps combat the isolation that can sometimes develop during long missions, reminding astronauts that they are part of a global effort to expand human knowledge. Perhaps the most ingenious curiosity-building feature involves what might seem like the most routine aspect of station life: maintenance procedures. Every repair manual and troubleshooting guide includes embedded why this works explanations that transform necessary chores into learning opportunities. When replacing a pump, an astronaut might find a brief animated explanation of how that particular pump design evolved to handle microgravity conditions. When calibrating a sensor, the procedure might include background on the physics principles that make the calibration necessary. These educational snippets are carefully crafted to be consumed quickly during the natural pauses in maintenance work, providing intellectual stimulation without slowing down critical repairs. The systems even track which explanations each crew member has seen, ensuring they receive new information each time they perform similar tasks throughout the mission. The station's computing systems include what engineers call serendipity engines, algorithms that occasionally surface unexpected information or connections that might spark new ideas. A biologist working on protein crystallization might receive a notification about interesting fluid dynamics research happening in another module that could offer insights into their own work. An engineer troubleshooting a vibration issue might be shown historical data from similar problems on previous missions, along with the creative solutions those earlier crews developed. These connections aren't random, they're based on sophisticated analysis of the station's entire research portfolio, identifying potential cross-disciplinary opportunities that humans might overlook. The system presents these suggestions through non-intrusive notifications that crew can explore or dismiss as time allows, creating a constant low-level stream of intellectual stimulation. Training simulations before missions incorporate curiosity building elements by including mystery scenarios that require creative problem solving rather than just following established procedures. An astronaut might encounter a simulated experiment with unexpected results that they must investigate, or a system malfunction that requires understanding underlying principles to resolve. These exercises are designed to cultivate what mission planners call the curiosity reflex, the instinct to ask why something is happening rather than just fixing it. This mindset proves invaluable during actual missions when truly novel situations arise that aren't covered by any procedure, requiring crews to think like scientists rather than just technicians. The station's design even acknowledges that curiosity needs physical space to flourish, with what astronauts call tinkering zones, small areas equipped with basic tools and materials where crew members can conduct informal investigations outside their official responsibilities. These spaces might include microscopes for examining interesting particles that float through the station, simple chemistry sets for testing ideas about material interactions, or even just comfortable viewing positions for observing Earth phenomena that catch their attention. The presence of these areas sends a powerful message that curiosity is valued for its own sake, not just when it directly serves mission objectives. Many significant discoveries have emerged from these informal investigations, proving that when you create an environment that nurtures natural curiosity, you never know what wonders might reveal themselves. Floating in what amounts to a sophisticated metal canister hundreds of miles above Earth, with nothing but a few inches of engineered material separating you from the instant vacuum of space, creates a profound and inescapable sense of vulnerability that goes far deeper than intellectual understanding. It's a visceral, constant awareness of fragility that space station designers address not by trying to eliminate an impossible task but by building what might be called psychological armor into every aspect of the habitat. This emotional engineering begins with the very materials that surround the astronauts, selecting metals and composites that don't just meet structural specifications but feel substantial and reassuring to the touch. When an astronaut pushes off from a wall or handles equipment, the materials respond with satisfying density and solidity rather than tinny flex or vibration, creating unconscious reinforcement that they're surrounded by strength rather than fragility. The acoustic environment plays an equally crucial role in combating feelings of exposure. Instead of the constant creaks and groans that might emphasize the station's structural stresses, designers implement sophisticated sound dampening technologies that create what engineers call an acoustic blanket of reassuring consistency. The ever-present hum of life support systems isn't masked entirely but is smoothed into a consistent, low-frequency backdrop that feels more like the steady heartbeat of a living organism than the mechanical operation of delicate machinery. This sonic consistency provides psychological ballast against the silent void outside, creating an auditory boundary that reinforces the security of the interior environment. Even the alert systems use carefully calibrated tones that convey urgency without triggering primal alarm responses, recognizing that in an environment of constant vulnerability, the soundscape itself must feel protective rather than alarming. Sleeping quarters receive particular attention as sanctuaries where astronauts can temporarily lower their psychological guards. These aren't just functional sleeping pods, but carefully engineered personal havens designed with what psychologists term enveloping architecture. The sleeping bags themselves are mounted within contoured recesses that curve around the body, creating a sense of being cradled rather than simply tethered in place. Soft, adjustable lighting illuminates these spaces from multiple angles to eliminate harsh shadows that might feel threatening, while ventilation systems provide gentle, consistent airflow that prevents the stuffy sensation of being trapped. Each sleep station includes personal control panels that allow astronauts to adjust their immediate environment, a crucial psychological tool that reinforces personal agency in a situation where so much is beyond individual control. The ability to change lighting, adjust airflow, or select calming soundscapes transforms these compact spaces from mere sleeping accommodations into personalized retreats where vulnerability can temporarily give way to restorative security. Emergency equipment throughout the station walks a delicate balance between accessibility and psychological comfort. Rather than hiding safety systems behind panels where their invisibility might create anxiety, designers make them visibly present but integrate them aesthetically into the overall environment. Fire extinguishers are mounted in brightly colored but smoothly contoured housings that look like intentional design elements rather than alarming emergency provisions. Oxygen masks are stored behind transparent covers that reveal their presence without emphasizing their function until needed. Emergency instruction placards use clear, simple graphics with calming color schemes rather than alarming reds and blacks, turning potential triggers of anxiety into reassuring reminders of preparedness. This approach acknowledges that constant visual reminders of danger would amplify feelings of vulnerability, while completely hiding safety equipment would create its own form of anxiety about being unprepared. Perhaps the most sophisticated vulnerability management involves the communication systems, which include multiple privacy levels that allow astronauts to have vulnerable conversations without fear of being overheard by the entire crew or ground control. Designated communication booths provide sound-isolated environments where crew members can speak privately with family, mental health professionals, or even each other without concern about who might be listening. These spaces feature adjustable lighting that can be softened for more personal conversations, comfortable restraints that allow for relaxed positioning, and visual privacy screens that can be activated when needed. The systems include what engineers call dignity protocols, automated filters that temporarily pause ground monitoring during particularly personal communications, with only basic physiological safety data continuing to stream to mission control. This protection of emotional privacy proves crucial for maintaining psychological health, creating spaces where astronauts can express fears, doubts, or personal struggles without compromising their professional standing or feeling exposed to constant observation. The station's redundant safety systems are designed to be not just functionally reliable but psychologically reassuring through their visible presence. Rather than hiding backup systems behind panels where their existence is merely theoretical, designers often make redundancy visibly apparent, showing duplicate wiring runs, secondary control panels, and backup components that reinforce the message of multiple layers of protection. This visible redundancy serves a psychological function beyond its technical purpose, providing constant visual reminders that every critical system has backups to its backups. During training, astronauts are shown these systems in detail and walk through failure scenarios that demonstrate how the redundancies would activate, building deep confidence that transforms abstract knowledge of safety systems into tangible psychological security. Even the interior layout contributes to reducing feelings of vulnerability through what architects call defensible space principles. No workstation or living area is designed as a dead end where an astronaut might feel trapped. Instead, sight lines are maintained throughout modules so crew members can always see multiple routes to other areas. Emergency equipment is positioned at regular intervals along these sight lines, creating visual markers of safety that are always within view. The lighting design ensures there are no dark corners or poorly illuminated areas that might trigger primal unease, while still providing varied lighting levels that create visual interest and prevent the sterile uniformity that can itself feel unsettling over time. The psychological protection extends to information systems as well, with status displays designed to emphasize stability rather than constantly highlighting potential threats. While critical alerts certainly appear when necessary, the default state of most displays shows systems operating within normal parameters with clear, calming visual indicators. The systems avoid unnecessary warning symbols or alarm colors during normal operation, instead using neutral blues, greens, and whites that convey quiet competence rather than constant vigilance. This design approach recognizes that human attention naturally gravitates toward potential threats, so by making normal operation visually calm and anomaly detection visually distinctive without being alarming, designers help astronauts maintain a baseline psychological state that isn't constantly braced for emergency. In an environment where every day brings another series of meticulously planned procedures and complex tasks, the potential for extraordinary accomplishments to start feeling routine becomes a genuine psychological challenge that space station designers address with remarkable creativity. The emotion of pride requires active cultivation in an environment where simply surviving each day represents an incredible achievement, but where that very survival becomes the expected baseline. Designers approach this not through empty praise but by creating systems that provide tangible, visible evidence of progress and excellence, transforming abstract successes into concrete milestones that astronauts can genuinely feel proud of accomplishing. Mission milestone tracking displays serve as the foundational layer of this pride engineering system, transforming the abstract progression of time into visually satisfying representations of collective achievement. These aren't simple calendar applications but sophisticated data visualization tools that show everything from the cumulative number of scientific experiments completed to the total hours of extravehicular activity performed. One particularly effective display takes the form of a virtual garden that grows more lush and complex as the mission progresses. Each completed task adds new plants or features, creating a living representation of the crew's collective effort. Another system projects a star map of the station's orbital path around Earth, with particularly significant accomplishments marked as brightly glowing points along their trajectory. These visualizations make abstract progress tangible in ways that simple number counters cannot, providing daily reminders of how much the crew has achieved together. The award systems designed by Ground Control represent a fascinating blend of military tradition, corporate recognition culture, and psychological science. Mission controllers can activate what astronauts call digital badges, special notifications that appear on personal displays with specific commendations for exceptional performance. These aren't generic participation trophies but highly specific recognitions tied to particular skills or accomplishments, perhaps a MacGyver badge for creative problem solving with limited resources, or a Zen Master Award for maintaining calm during particularly stressful situations. The badges include explanations of why they were awarded, often quoting specific moments that ground teams observed and admired. Some even unlock small privileges, like first access to new entertainment content or special meal items, turning the recognition into both status symbol and tangible reward. The system includes peer nomination features that allow crew members to recommend each other for recognition, creating a culture where astronauts are actively looking for opportunities to acknowledge each other's strengths. Video documentation systems provide perhaps the most powerful tool for fostering legitimate pride through what psychologists call reviewable mastery evidence. High-quality recording equipment positioned throughout the station captures significant accomplishments, from complex repairs to breakthrough experimental results. These aren't surveillance cameras but deliberately placed documentary tools that astronauts can activate when they're about to attempt something challenging. The systems include simple editing software that allows crew members to compile their footage with data overlays and explanatory captions, creating professional-looking records of their achievements. These videos serve multiple purposes. They become training materials for future crews, research documentation for scientists on Earth, and perhaps most importantly, personal records that astronauts can review during difficult moments to remind themselves of their capabilities. There's something uniquely powerful about watching yourself successfully troubleshoot a malfunctioning system while floating in microgravity. It transforms what might have felt like a stressful emergency in the moment into clear evidence of competence when viewed later. Workstation performance feedback systems take the concept of productivity tracking to sophisticated levels, providing astronauts with detailed analytics about their efficiency and skill development. These systems monitor everything from the time required to complete standard procedures to the conservation of resources during experiments, then present this data through improvement-focused visualizations. An astronaut might see a graph showing how their average experiment setup time has decreased by 30% since mission beginning, or a display highlighting how their precision in handling delicate samples has improved based on success rates. The systems focus on personal progress rather than comparison between crew members, recognizing that pride comes from recognizing one's own growth. The feedback is always contextualized too. It might note that a particular procedure was accomplished during a high-stress period or with equipment that was functioning suboptimally, helping astronauts appreciate their achievements within real-world constraints rather than idealized conditions. Communal areas feature physical and digital display spaces that transform crew accomplishments into shared sources of pride. One wall might showcase photographs of particularly beautiful Earth observations with credits to the astronauts who captured them, while another displays 3D printed models of protein crystals grown in microgravity with explanations of their scientific significance. These exhibits rotate regularly to highlight different types of achievements, ensuring that all aspects of station operations receive recognition. Not just the dramatic moments that might make news on Earth, but the quiet successes that represent the majority of space station work. The displays often include behind-the-scenes information about the challenges overcome to achieve each result, helping both crew members and visiting personnel from other spacecraft appreciate the effort behind what might otherwise seem like routine accomplishments. The daily briefing systems incorporate structured recognition segments that formalize the practice of appreciating each other's contributions. These aren't afterthoughts tacked onto the end of meetings, but carefully designed rituals with dedicated time and specific formats. One popular approach involves what crews call appreciation orbits. Each person shares something they admired about another crew member's work during the previous day, with the conversation moving around the virtual table until everyone has both given and received recognition. The briefing software includes prompts and templates that help crew members articulate their appreciation in specific rather than general terms, moving beyond "good job" to "I was impressed with how you calmly diagnosed the cooling system anomaly despite the time pressure." These structured practices prevent recognition from being overlooked during busy periods and ensure that praise is distributed equitably rather than always flowing to the most visible roles. Personal milestone celebrations receive careful attention as well, with systems that help mark individual achievements alongside collective accomplishments. The station's computers track personal firsts the first time an astronaut performs a spacewalk, operates a particular piece of equipment, or completes a complex experiment independently. These milestones trigger small celebrations, perhaps a special meal item from their home country, a video message from their training team on Earth, or a custom-designed certificate that appears on their personal display. The systems also help crew members celebrate earthly milestones that might otherwise be overlooked in the intense focus of mission life: birthdays, work anniversaries, even personal traditions like celebrating a child's graduation or a parent's birthday. By acknowledging these personal moments alongside professional achievements, the recognition systems reinforce that astronauts are whole people with full lives, not just mission specialists performing functions. The culture of appreciation extends to how astronauts interact with ground teams as well, with systems designed to facilitate mutual recognition across the space-Earth divide. Crew members can easily send thank you messages to specific support teams, while ground controllers have channels for expressing appreciation for particularly helpful suggestions or observations from orbit. These cross-boundary recognition practices help combat the us versus them dynamic that can sometimes develop between space crews and mission control, reinforcing that everyone is part of a single team working toward shared goals. The systems even include features that allow astronauts to recognize the designers of the equipment they're using, creating unexpected connections between those who created the station systems and those who are now using them to do extraordinary work hundreds of miles above the planet. Imagine floating in an environment where your innate sense of direction becomes completely useless, where up and down are merely suggestions rather than physical realities, and your brain's hardwired dependence on gravity for spatial orientation suddenly vanishes. This constant state of potential disorientation represents one of the most fundamental challenges of living in microgravity, and space station designers approach it with a multi-layered strategy that blends environmental psychology, architectural cues, and advanced training technologies to create what might be called synthetic gravity for the human mind. The most immediate solution to spatial confusion involves what designers term visual gravity, deliberate color coding systems that create artificial orientation references throughout the station. Floors typically feature darker color gradients that recede visually, while ceilings employ lighter tones that seem to expand upward, creating a subtle but persistent visual hierarchy that suggests which way is down. Walls use intermediate shades with vertical striping or patterning that reinforces the preferred orientation. This isn't just aesthetic decoration, it's carefully calibrated visual language based on how human brains process spatial information, even in the absence of gravitational cues. The color differences are subtle enough to avoid creating visual clutter, but distinct enough to provide immediate orientation cues when an astronaut glances around a module. In areas where multiple modules connect at different angles, the color systems transition gradually to help astronauts mentally reconcile the spatial relationships between sections. Lighting design provides another crucial layer of orientation support through what engineers call directional consistency. Rather than using uniform ambient lighting throughout each module, illumination systems create subtle gradients that always appear to come from the same direction relative to the established floor plane. This consistent lighting angle creates shadows and highlights that reinforce the artificial orientation, much like sunlight streaming through windows on Earth provides constant directional information. The systems automatically adjust intensity and color temperature to maintain this directional effect throughout the station's 90-minute day-night cycle, ensuring the orientation cues remain effective regardless of whether the station is over the sunlit side of Earth or experiencing orbital night. Even emergency lighting follows this principle, with all backup systems positioned to cast light from the same consistent angle to prevent disorientation during critical situations. Control panels and workstation interfaces incorporate what might be called unambiguous orientation markers, clear visual indicators that immediately communicate which way is up for that particular piece of equipment. Every display includes a consistent orientation symbol in one corner, usually a simple arrow or color-coded indicator that aligns with the station's overall visual gravity system. Buttons and switches are arranged in layouts that make sense only when approached from the correct orientation, with important controls positioned where they would naturally fall to hand when an astronaut is properly aligned. Touchscreens include interface elements that are asymmetrical in ways that immediately reveal their proper orientation, and cursor movement always follows the established up-down convention rather than relating to the astronaut's current body position. These design choices might seem obvious, but they require meticulous planning to ensure that in moments of emergency or high stress, astronauts can interact with critical systems without first having to consciously determine their orientation relative to the equipment. The physical architecture of the station itself guides movement and orientation through strategically positioned handholds, mobility aids, and passageway designs that suggest natural movement paths. Handrails aren't just randomly placed, they're positioned to encourage movement along specific axes that align with the visual orientation system. The spacing between grips follows patterns that feel natural when moving in the designated forward direction, but might feel slightly awkward when moving backward, subtly encouraging preferred movement patterns. Passageways between modules often include slight funnels or narrowing at transition points that naturally guide astronauts toward the optimal orientation for entering the next section. Even storage compartments and equipment mounts are arranged to be most accessible from certain orientations, creating practical incentives for maintaining the preferred spatial alignment. Before astronauts ever launch, they undergo extensive virtual reality training that helps them develop detailed cognitive maps of the station layout. These aren't simple walkthroughs but sophisticated spatial orientation exercises that gradually build mental models of how modules connect and relate to each other. The training includes emergency scenarios where astronauts must navigate from any random point to safety equipment while disoriented, building what mission planners call muscle memory for the mind. The virtual environments include the same color coding, lighting cues, and orientation markers they'll encounter on the actual station, ensuring the mental maps they develop during training will directly translate to the real environment. Some training scenarios even simulate system failures that eliminate visual cues, forcing astronauts to practice maintaining orientation using only their memory of the station's layout and the tactile feedback from handholds and surfaces. Critical systems throughout the station maintain consistent orientation relative to the local vertical reference, ensuring that emergency equipment, communication panels, and essential controls are always found in predictable locations regardless of which module an astronaut is in. A fire extinguisher will always be positioned near the floor area. Emergency oxygen masks will always be behind panels marked with consistent orientation cues, and communication stations will always have their primary displays oriented the same way relative to the established up direction. This consistency means that during emergencies, when stress and adrenaline might impair spatial reasoning, astronauts can rely on automated orientation responses rather than having to consciously figure out where things are located. The systems are designed so that even if an astronaut enters a module upside down relative to the established orientation, the critical equipment will still be found in the expected relationship to that module's local vertical reference. Emergency signage represents a masterpiece of universal design that works regardless of the viewer's orientation. Instead of using text that must be read right side up, signs employ internationally recognized symbols and color codes that are immediately understandable from any angle. Arrows indicating escape routes are designed as symmetric shapes that point the correct direction whether viewed normally or inverted. Color-coded emergency stripes along walls change pattern at decision points, providing navigation cues that don't depend on the viewer's orientation. Even the lighting around emergency equipment is designed to be equally effective from all angles, with multiple light sources ensuring that controls and instructions remain clearly visible regardless of how an astronaut approaches them. These orientation systems work together to create what psychologists call a stable perceptual framework, an artificial replacement for the gravitational cues that our brains evolved to depend on. The remarkable achievement isn't that these systems prevent disorientation. Entirely occasional confusion still occurs, but that they provide enough consistent reference points that astronauts can quickly reorient themselves when they do become turned around. This synthetic spatial stability proves crucial for both operational efficiency and psychological well-being, creating an environment where the extraordinary becomes manageable through careful design that understands and accommodates the very human need to know which way is up. When you're halfway through a 6-month mission with the same daily routines and the same handful of people, the emotional challenge isn't just managing the present moment, it's maintaining excitement for the future when every day can start to feel remarkably similar. This is where space station designers apply their expertise to what might be the most forward-looking of all human emotions: anticipation. They understand that in an environment where major milestones are months apart, the psychological machinery of looking forward needs constant fuel to keep motivation running strong. The solution isn't just counting down days until return. It's engineering a continuous stream of meaningful future moments that give each day its own reason for excitement. Visible countdown systems represent the most straightforward approach to maintaining temporal orientation and building excitement. But these aren't simple digital readouts showing days until departure. They're sophisticated psychological tools that break the mission into manageable emotional segments. One display might count down to the next resupply spacecraft arrival, another to a planned spacewalk, another to a significant scientific milestone, and still another to a crew member's birthday. The systems use color coding to indicate different types of events, with warm tones for celebratory occasions and cooler tones for operational milestones. As each event approaches, the display might add additional information, perhaps showing the progress of the resupply craft as it journeys from Earth, or displaying photos of the birthday person from previous years. This multi-layered approach to timekeeping ensures there's always something to look forward to, whether it's just 2 days away or 2 months, preventing that feeling of being stuck in an endless present without future markers. Surprise delivery systems add an element of delightful uncertainty to the carefully scheduled world of space station life. While most supplies arrive on predictable resupply missions, designers include what astronauts call mystery lockers, sealed compartments that open automatically at predetermined times or when certain mission milestones are achieved. These might contain anything from new entertainment content and games to special food items that weren't on the official manifest. Some are triggered by ground control when they observe crew energy levels dipping, while others are programmed to open after the completion of particularly challenging tasks as rewards. The delivery mechanisms themselves vary. Some compartments slide open with satisfying mechanical precision. Others require solving simple puzzles to access, and some even include small projection displays that build anticipation before revealing their contents. This element of controlled surprise transforms the station from a completely predictable environment into one that still holds mysteries and unexpected joys. Scientific work incorporates what researchers call revelation moments within experiment sequences to maintain intellectual anticipation. Rather than setting up experiments that simply run for months with gradual data collection, designers create procedures with built-in milestones where interesting results become visible. A material science experiment might be designed to produce visible crystals at specific intervals, with special viewing equipment that makes these formation moments into minor events. Biological studies might include scheduled microscope observations where surprising cellular developments are likely to be visible. Even Earth observation protocols are structured around anticipated events, volcanic eruptions, hurricane formations, or seasonal changes that create natural excitement about what might be visible on the next orbit pass. The station's computing systems highlight these revelation moments in daily schedules, building appropriate anticipation rather than letting them get lost in routine data collection. The architecture itself includes designated event spaces, specifically designed for celebration and anticipation building. These aren't just multi-purpose areas used for parties, but carefully engineered environments that can transform for different occasions. One might feature adjustable lighting systems that can create everything from birthday party excitement to more solemn holiday observance atmospheres. Another includes projection surfaces that can display custom backgrounds, turning the space into a virtual beach for a summer celebration or a cozy winter scene for holiday observances. The acoustic properties in these areas can be tuned to enhance different types of gatherings, with sound systems that provide crisp audio for music or speeches and noise-dampening features that make smaller gatherings feel intimate. These spaces often include special storage for celebration supplies that remain out of sight until needed, keeping the anticipation building until the transformation occurs. Communication systems manage the emotional impact of messages from Earth through what psychologists call optimal delivery timing. Rather than simply making all messages available immediately, the systems sometimes hold particularly significant communications, birthday greetings, anniversary messages, or news from family, to deliver them at times when they'll have maximum positive impact. The scheduling algorithms consider the crew's daily rhythm, current stress levels, and even the content of previous messages to determine the best delivery time. A video from a child's graduation might be held until the astronaut has completed a challenging task and has time to fully appreciate it, while encouraging messages from mission control might be delivered just before a difficult procedure. This careful timing transforms random communications into emotional resources that are available exactly when needed most. Perhaps the most ingenious anticipation-building system involves the gradual revelation of food options throughout the mission. Instead of providing access to the entire menu from day one, the inventory management system slowly introduces new items as the mission progresses. An astronaut might find that after completing the first month, a new section of the menu unlocks with more sophisticated meal options. After particularly challenging milestones, special celebration meals become available with higher quality ingredients and more elaborate preparation requirements. The system even includes mystery meals where the packaging doesn't reveal the contents until opened, turning dinner into a small adventure. This approach does more than prevent menu fatigue. It creates a tangible connection between mission progress and daily rewards, with each new food option serving as a delicious marker that time is moving forward and accomplishments are being recognized. The scheduling systems themselves build anticipation through what designers call structured serendipity, intentionally creating small gaps in the schedule that can be filled with unexpected enjoyable activities. These aren't just empty time blocks, but opportunities that the system fills based on current crew mood and energy levels. A free hour might be automatically filled with a suggestion to try a new virtual reality experience that just downloaded, or to watch a particularly beautiful orbital pass from the observation module, or to participate in a live event happening on Earth. The suggestions are tailored to individual preferences. One astronaut might be prompted to try a new photography technique, while another is encouraged to listen to a newly available music album. This approach ensures that looking forward to off-duty time remains exciting throughout the mission, not just during scheduled vacation periods. Personal milestone tracking helps astronauts maintain connection to their own growth and development, with systems that highlight skill acquisitions and personal firsts. The station's computers track everything from the first successful operation of complex equipment to improvements in efficiency on routine tasks, then deliver notifications about these achievements with appropriate fanfare. An astronaut might receive a message congratulating them on their 100th successful experiment activation, complete with statistics comparing their current speed and accuracy to their first attempts. These personal milestones are often tied to small rewards, perhaps access to a special piece of equipment or a commendation that appears in their permanent record. This focus on personal growth creates a different kind of anticipation, not just looking forward to external events, but anticipating one's own developing capabilities and the satisfaction of increasing mastery. The most sophisticated anticipation management involves what mission planners call tiered revelation, structuring information about the mission itself to maintain excitement about what's coming next. Rather than providing complete details about all upcoming activities at the beginning of the mission, the schedule reveals information in stages. An astronaut might know that a complex spacewalk is scheduled for next month, but the detailed procedures and specific assignments aren't revealed until closer to the event. Scientific experiments often have preliminary phases followed by more interesting secondary stages that aren't fully explained initially. This approach prevents everything from feeling predetermined and routine, maintaining a sense of discovery about the mission itself, even for those living it day to day. Living in an environment where every breath of air is recycled, every drop of water is reclaimed, and every watt of power is carefully allocated creates a profound awareness of dependency that space station designers channel into one of humanity's most uplifting emotions, gratitude. This isn't simply about saying thank you. It's about creating constant, tangible reminders that the extraordinary privilege of living in space rests upon a foundation of collective human effort stretching from the engineers who designed each component to the countless support staff who monitor systems around the clock back on Earth. The station's design incorporates what psychologists call gratitude architecture environments and systems that make appreciation an unavoidable and rewarding part of daily life rather than an occasional afterthought. The most powerful gratitude-inducing features are the strategically placed windows that offer breathtaking views of our planet suspended in the blackness of space. These aren't just random viewing ports, but carefully positioned architectural elements placed precisely where astronauts are most likely to need perspective, near exercise equipment where fatigue might set in, adjacent to complex workstations where frustration can build, and most importantly, in quiet corners where crew members naturally drift during moments of reflection. The viewing experience itself is enhanced through what designers call framing technology, adjustable shades that can isolate particular features on Earth's surface, magnification systems that bring distant details into focus, and even augmented reality overlays that identify geographical features and human settlements passing below. This transforms casual gazing into meaningful engagement, reminding astronauts that they're not just looking at a beautiful planet, but observing the home of everyone who supports their mission, from their families to the teams monitoring life support systems halfway across the world. Communication systems include what astronauts affectionately call the gratitude amplifier, a dedicated interface that makes expressing thanks as easy as possible. Instead of requiring crew members to compose formal messages, the system includes templates for different types of appreciation, voice-to-text transcription that captures spontaneous thoughts, and even a video message booth with optimized lighting and background that makes recorded thank yous look professionally produced. The system tracks who's been thanked recently and might suggest ground team members who haven't received recognition in a while, ensuring appreciation is distributed widely rather than always flowing to the most visible contacts. There's even a gratitude calendar that highlights upcoming holidays and appreciation events from different cultures represented by the crew, helping astronauts maintain connection with earthly traditions of thankfulness despite their extraordinary circumstances. Shared meal traditions aboard the station transform necessary nutrition into rituals of gratitude that reinforce crew bonding and Earth connection. Before the first bite of each meal, there's a designated moment where crew members often share something they're thankful for, not as a mandatory requirement, but as a natural part of the meal preparation process facilitated by the design of the dining area. The table itself is circular to encourage face-to-face interaction, with restraints that allow comfortable floating in social positions. The food packaging includes small notes about the people who prepared each meal, perhaps a photo of the kitchen staff or a short story about where particular ingredients originated. On special occasions, meal packages might include QR codes that link to video messages from the culinary teams, creating virtual dinner guests from Earth. These small design touches transform eating from a solitary refueling process into a communal act of appreciation for the countless people who make space meals possible. Personal quarters feature sophisticated journaling interfaces that do much more than simply record daily events. These systems include gratitude prompts based on positive psychology research, asking questions like, "What surprised you pleasantly today?" or "Who made your work easier this shift?" The interfaces make recording these thoughts effortless. Voice activation allows hands-free entry while floating, and the system can even detect mood from speech patterns to suggest appropriate gratitude exercises. Some astronauts use the journaling function to create appreciation lists that they share with ground teams, while others keep private gratitude records that they review during challenging moments. The systems include beautiful visualization tools that transform written gratitude into artistic representations, perhaps a word cloud of frequently appreciated things, or a timeline showing moments of thankfulness throughout the mission. These aren't just diaries, they're active gratitude cultivation tools that help astronauts maintain positive focus amid the stresses of spaceflight. Common areas throughout the station feature what might be called appreciation walls, large display screens that rotate through images and profiles of the Earth-based teams currently supporting the mission. These aren't static organizational charts, but living representations of the human network below. One moment the screen might show the faces of the flight control team currently on shift, complete with their names and roles. Later it might display the engineering team that designed a particular system, or the medical staff monitoring crew health. The system includes real-time indicators showing who's currently available versus who's off-duty, helping astronauts visualize the constant support structure surrounding them. During particularly complex operations, the displays might highlight the specific experts supporting that activity, creating a powerful sense of teamwork across the space-Earth divide. These visual reminders transform abstract concepts of mission control into tangible human connections, making gratitude feel specific and personal rather than general and abstract. The station's scheduling system builds in what planners call gratitude pauses, brief but regular intervals where crew members are encouraged to step back from their work and reflect on their extraordinary circumstances. These aren't long breaks but moments built into the natural rhythm of the day, perhaps a 2-minute window after completing a complex procedure or a scheduled 5-minute period before the daily planning conference. During these pauses, the station's ambient lighting might soften slightly, and the background soundscape could shift to something more contemplative. The computer systems sometimes display prompts like, "Take a moment to appreciate what you just accomplished," or "Consider who helped make this achievement possible." These structured reflection moments prevent gratitude from being crowded out by the relentless pace of mission activities, ensuring that even during the busiest days, astronauts have opportunities to maintain perspective on the privilege of their position. Perhaps the most sophisticated gratitude engineering feature involves what mission planners call the Chain of Appreciation System, a digital platform that tracks how help and support flow through the entire mission ecosystem. When an astronaut thanks someone for assistance, the system might reveal that person's own support network, the trainers who prepared them, the engineers who built their tools, the family members who encouraged them. This creates a cascading awareness of the interconnected effort required for space exploration, transforming simple thank yous into deeper understanding of the human infrastructure behind every success. The system can generate visual maps showing how appreciation ripples through the organization, sometimes revealing unexpected connections between people who have indirectly contributed to each other's work. This transforms gratitude from a bilateral exchange into a systemic awareness, helping astronauts understand that their mission represents the culmination of countless acts of dedication and support stretching far beyond what any single thank you message could encompass. Even the most meticulously planned schedules and carefully engineered environments cannot completely eliminate those moments when the body simply needs to move, a deep, primal restlessness that builds in the muscles and mind after weeks of living within the same confined metallic spaces. In Earth's gravity, we might go for a walk or tackle a physical project to work through this pent-up energy, but in microgravity, where even standing is impossible, that restless energy has nowhere to go. Space station designers approach this challenge not by suppressing the urge to move, but by creating what they term directed exertion opportunities, structured physical outlets that transform restless energy into productive movement, turning a potential psychological liability into an asset for both physical health and mental well-being. The exercise equipment aboard modern space stations represents the pinnacle of this directed exertion philosophy, transforming what could be monotonous daily requirements into engaging physical challenges. The advanced resistive and aerobic machines incorporate virtual reality systems that do much more than just provide visual distraction. They create genuine competition and connection. An astronaut might find themselves cycling through a digitally recreated version of the Tour de France course, competing against their own previous best times or even against ground-based teams pedaling on identical equipment back on Earth. The resistance levels automatically adjust to match the virtual terrain, creating a truly immersive physical experience that demands full engagement. For strength training, the systems can simulate everything from rowing through virtual waters to climbing digital rock faces, with resistance levels that respond to the astronaut's movements in real time. These aren't just workouts, they're physical adventures that channel restless energy into meaningful challenges, complete with progress tracking, achievement badges, and the satisfying feedback of seeing concrete improvement over time. Maintenance tasks receive similar treatment, with designers specifically engineering certain procedures to require satisfying physical engagement. Rather than minimizing all movement for efficiency, some repairs are deliberately designed to involve full body coordination, perhaps requiring an astronaut to brace themselves in a specific configuration while applying precise force to a stubborn component, or positioning themselves at an unusual angle to access a maintenance panel. These tasks provide what psychologists call proprioceptive feedback, the deep muscle and joint awareness that comes from physically demanding work. The tools themselves are designed for satisfying use, with ergonomic grips that fit perfectly in the hand and mechanisms that provide clear tactile feedback when operations are completed successfully. Even the sound design of these activities receives attention, with equipment engineered to produce satisfying clicks, smooth sliding sounds, and other auditory feedback that makes physical work feel rewarding rather than frustrating. Recreation systems take physical challenge to creative new levels in the weightless environment. Designers have developed microgravity-adapted versions of sports and games that provide vigorous physical exertion while working within the station's spatial constraints. One popular activity involves a specially designed court where astronauts can play what might be described as three-dimensional squash, using paddles to hit a ball that bounces off surfaces in all directions, requiring lightning-fast reflexes and full body coordination. Another system creates virtual reality obstacle courses that exist only in headsets but require real physical movement to navigate climbing, crawling, and jumping in place while the VR system tracks their motions. These recreational activities serve dual purposes. They provide intense physical exertion that burns restless energy, while also developing the precise movement control and spatial awareness that proves valuable during actual station operations. The station's architecture itself incorporates what designers call movement circuits, carefully planned pathways that encourage spontaneous physical activity as astronauts move between modules. These aren't marked routes but rather natural flow patterns created through strategic placement of handholds, foot restraints, and mobility aids that invite varied movement styles. One passageway might feature handholds spaced at intervals that encourage upper body pulling motions, while another includes footholds positioned to allow leg-driven propulsion. The circuits vary in difficulty, with some providing straightforward transit and others offering more challenging routes that require greater coordination and effort. This approach transforms routine movement through the station from simple transportation into opportunities for physical engagement, allowing astronauts to choose their level of exertion based on their current energy levels and needs. Workstation design acknowledges that restlessness doesn't always demand vigorous activity. Sometimes it simply requires the ability to change positions and move subtly while working. Consoles are designed with multiple adjustment options that allow astronauts to frequently shift their body configuration without interrupting their tasks. A researcher might work standing upright in foot restraints for 30 minutes, then release and float in a slightly different position for the next segment, then settle into a semi-seated configuration, all while maintaining perfect access to their equipment. The stations include integrated stretching points and mobility aids positioned within easy reach, encouraging brief movement breaks that don't require leaving the work area. Even the computer interfaces incorporate gesture controls that allow certain operations to be conducted through arm movements rather than button presses, keeping the body engaged even during primarily cognitive tasks. Perhaps the most ingenious application of the directed exertion principle appears in the station's cleaning and housekeeping procedures. These necessary maintenance activities are designed to provide satisfying physical engagement rather than being minimized for efficiency. Cleaning tools require specific body motions that provide light resistance training, perhaps a scrubbing action that engages core muscles or a polishing motion that works shoulder groups. The systems include performance feedback that turns cleaning into a kind of game, with sensors that measure coverage completeness and efficiency, sometimes even awarding scores for particularly thorough work. Storage systems for cleaning supplies are positioned to require stretching or reaching motions that provide natural flexibility exercises. This approach transforms what could be tedious chores into opportunities for physical release, ensuring that even the most routine activities contribute to managing restlessness productively. The scheduling systems themselves incorporate algorithms that monitor crew activity levels and restlessness indicators, then subtly adjust the day's plan to provide appropriate physical outlets. If the system detects signs of pent-up energy, perhaps through increased fidgeting captured by motion sensors or changes in voice patterns that suggest restlessness, it might reschedule activities to include more physically demanding tasks earlier in the day. The system can also suggest specific movement breaks or recreational activities tailored to individual preferences, ensuring that restlessness is addressed before it becomes disruptive. This proactive approach to managing physical energy represents a sophisticated understanding that in the confined environment of a space station, the body's need for movement cannot be ignored. It must be channeled, directed, and transformed into something that serves both the individual and the mission. While the careful management of awe ensures this profound emotion doesn't compromise critical operations, space station designers simultaneously recognize that wonder represents a vital psychological resource that must be actively cultivated rather than simply contained. They approach this delicate balance by creating what might be called wonder architecture, deliberately engineered opportunities for astronauts to experience the sheer magic of their environment in ways that recharge their emotional batteries and reinforce the profound meaning behind their mission. This goes beyond simply providing windows. It involves designing complete sensory experiences that transform routine spaceflight into ongoing encounters with the extraordinary. Specialized observation systems represent the pinnacle of this wonder engineering philosophy. Beyond the standard Earth-facing windows, stations include dedicated astronomical viewing ports optimized for celestial observation rather than planetary gazing. These feature enhanced shielding against internal reflections, precision-mounted camera interfaces, and sometimes even built-in spectrographs or filters that allow astronauts to see specific wavelengths invisible to the naked eye. The stations employ sophisticated darkening systems that can black out entire modules, eliminating all interior light pollution to create conditions rivaling Earth's deepest caves for astronomical viewing. During these scheduled dark runs, astronauts witness the Milky Way not as the faint river of light seen from Earth's surface, but as a brilliant, three-dimensional cloud of countless stars stretching to infinity, a view so overwhelming that many describe it as fundamentally changing their understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. The timing of these experiences receives meticulous attention through what mission planners call wonder scheduling. Advanced software predicts particularly spectacular orbital events, perhaps a sunrise that will set the station's solar panels ablaze with golden light, or a night pass over a continent where lightning storms create continuous displays across hundreds of miles. The systems provide gentle alerts minutes before these events, allowing astronauts to position themselves at optimal viewing locations without disrupting their work schedules. During particularly demanding mission phases, the scheduling system might intentionally insert brief wonder breaks after stressful activities, recognizing that a few minutes gazing at Earth's incredible beauty can provide emotional reset more effectively than any other intervention. Experiments themselves are sometimes selected specifically for their wonder-generating potential alongside their scientific value. Fluid physics investigations might be chosen partly for their mesmerizing visual properties, perhaps the formation of perfect spheres of water that shimmer with reflected starlight, or the strange ballet of bubbles dancing in response to sound waves. Materials science experiments might produce stunning crystal formations that grow in intricate fractal patterns impossible to create in gravity. Even routine maintenance activities sometimes include wonder elements, perhaps the careful deployment of a new instrument that unfolds with elegant mechanical precision, or the slow rotation of a solar array that catches the sunlight in dramatic ways. These designed moments of beauty transform practical work into opportunities for aesthetic appreciation, ensuring that wonder isn't confined to leisure time but woven throughout the daily fabric of space station life. The recording equipment available to astronauts represents another crucial element in the wonder ecosystem. Unlike standard documentary cameras, these systems are specifically optimized for capturing the unique visual qualities of space. Specialized lenses compensate for the lack of atmospheric distortion that gives Earth photography its familiar quality, while sensors are tuned to handle the extreme contrast between sunlight and the blackness of space. The systems include automated tracking that can follow Earth features or celestial objects while compensating for the station's orbital motion, allowing astronauts to focus on the experience rather than operating equipment. Perhaps most importantly, the interfaces make it simple to share these captures immediately with ground teams, turning personal moments of wonder into shared experiences that connect the crew with people back on Earth. Communication systems enhance these shared wonder moments through what engineers term experience bridging technology. When an astronaut witnesses something extraordinary, they can quickly establish high-quality video links with schools, museums, or even family members, essentially bringing others along for the experience. The systems include augmented reality overlays that can identify what's being seen, labeling constellations, highlighting interesting weather patterns, or explaining the science behind spectacular visual phenomena. This transforms passive viewing into interactive education, allowing astronauts to become tour guides for the planet they're orbiting. The act of sharing these experiences often deepens the astronauts' own sense of wonder as they see Earth's beauty through the fresh eyes of those watching from below. Perhaps the most sophisticated wonder management system involves what psychologists call integration protocols, structured approaches to processing these extraordinary experiences so they become lasting psychological resources rather than fleeting moments. The station's computing systems include journaling functions specifically designed for recording wonder experiences, with prompts that encourage astronauts to reflect not just on what they saw, but how it made them feel and what it meant to them. These entries are often linked with the photographic or video records of the events, creating multimedia memories that astronauts can revisit during challenging periods. The system might occasionally resurface these memories at appropriate times, showing a particularly beautiful Earth view from a previous month during a stressful work period, or reminding an astronaut of their first reaction to seeing the northern lights from above. The daily routines themselves incorporate micro-moments designed to spark wonder without requiring special equipment or significant time investment. The simple act of drinking water in microgravity becomes an opportunity to appreciate physics as droplets float in perfect spheres. Morning routines might include a deliberate pause at a particular handhold that offers an unexpected view of Earth through a small window. Even meal preparation can become wonder-inducing when food behaves in strange and beautiful ways without gravity's influence. These small, integrated moments ensure that wonder isn't something that happens only during special occasions, but remains an ever-present possibility throughout each day. The ultimate expression of this design philosophy might be what astronauts call the float zone, a small area deliberately kept free of equipment where crew members can simply drift and experience the pure magic of weightlessness. This isn't a recreational area in the traditional sense, but rather a space dedicated to unstructured appreciation of the spaceflight experience itself. The lighting here is particularly soft and variable, capable of simulating Earth's dawn or dusk tones. The acoustic environment includes very subtle, calming sounds that enhance the sensation of floating. There are no screens or displays, just the opportunity to exist fully in the extraordinary reality of orbiting Earth. Many astronauts report that these unstructured moments, more than any planned observation session, generate the most profound sense of wonder and gratitude for their incredible opportunity. While combating isolation addresses the immediate psychological challenge of being separated from loved ones, space station designers pursue an even more profound emotional goal, fostering a transformative sense of connection that expands an astronaut's identity from individual crew member to planetary citizen. This goes far beyond preventing loneliness. It's about actively cultivating the realization that despite being further from Earth than most humans will ever travel, they are simultaneously more connected to the whole of humanity than ever before. The station becomes a vantage point not just for observing our planet, but for understanding the intricate web of life and human endeavor that blankets its surface, creating what many astronauts describe as the most significant psychological shift of their entire spaceflight experience, the overview effect engineered into daily existence. Communication systems serve as the primary conduit for this expanded connection, evolving far beyond simple family video calls to become portals for participating in Earth's cultural and social fabric. Special event protocols allow astronauts to join global celebrations in real time, floating above the planet while watching New Year's fireworks erupt across time zones, offering greetings during international sporting events, or even participating virtually in cultural ceremonies back on Earth. The technology creates the illusion of presence through sophisticated audio processing that eliminates transmission delay for these special events. Directional speakers that make it seem like crowd noise is coming from around them, and large format displays that fill their field of vision with event footage. During these moments, the station transforms from an isolated outpost into a front row seat for humanity's shared experiences, reinforcing that despite their physical distance, astronauts remain woven into the tapestry of human celebration and collective experience. Earth observation platforms take this connection deeper by transforming casual viewing into structured engagement with our planet's systems and human geography. Specialized software identifies and labels not just geographical features but human patterns, highlighting shipping lanes that connect global commerce, tracing agricultural patterns that feed nations, and even identifying specific cultural or historical sites as they pass beneath. The systems can overlay real-time data showing atmospheric rivers moving moisture across continents, phytoplankton blooms coloring entire ocean basins, and the nightly pattern of human settlement illuminated by city lights. This transforms the breathtaking view from a passive spectacle into an active lesson in Earth systems science and human geography, helping astronauts understand the complex interplay between natural systems and human civilization that sustains life on their home planet. Many describe developing what they call orbital empathy, a deep concern for Earth's well-being that emerges from seeing its fragility and interconnectedness from this unique perspective. Cultural exchange programs create tangible bridges between the orbiting laboratory and communities worldwide, transforming astronauts into educators and ambassadors. Classrooms across the planet can schedule live video sessions where students ask questions about life in space while sharing aspects of their own culture, perhaps demonstrating traditional dances, explaining local environmental projects, or sharing artwork inspired by space exploration. The station includes a dedicated cultural archive containing items from around the world, musical instruments that astronauts can attempt to play in microgravity, traditional crafts that demonstrate different approaches to beauty and utility, and even scent capsules that release aromas characteristic of different regions, from the spicy warmth of marketplaces to the clean scent of mountain air. These exchanges work both ways, with astronauts sharing their unique multicultural perspective gained from orbiting the planet every 90 minutes, subtly demonstrating how borders disappear from space and how interconnected human existence truly appears from their extraordinary vantage point. The station's interior design reinforces this message of global connection through carefully curated artwork and cultural items from every continent. Rather than generic space imagery, the walls feature rotating exhibits from Earth artists, often pieces that reflect on themes of connectedness, planetary awareness, or the human relationship with the cosmos. Cultural artifacts from different traditions are integrated into daily life. Perhaps a Japanese tea set used during quiet moments of reflection, African textiles incorporated into common area decorations, or South American musical instruments available for recreational play. Even the color schemes throughout different modules sometimes reflect regional palettes from around the world, creating visual variety while subtly reminding crew members of the planet's diverse beauty. These elements transform the station from a sterile laboratory into a microcosm of human culture, where every day offers opportunities to engage with different aspects of our shared human heritage. Meal systems serve as daily rituals of global connection, with food preparation designed as cultural exploration rather than mere nutrition. Menus rotate through international cuisines prepared in consultation with chefs from different culinary traditions, with packaging that includes information about the cultural significance of each dish and its ingredients. Special meal events might feature cooking demonstrations beamed from Earth restaurants, or collaborative meal preparation with astronauts from different countries sharing family recipes. The dining area itself is designed to facilitate these cultural exchanges, with round tables that encourage face-to-face conversation, adjustable lighting that can create different ambiances, and display screens that can show imagery from the region whose cuisine is being enjoyed. These shared meals become opportunities not just for nourishment but for cultural storytelling and connection, turning dinner into a daily reminder of Earth's delicious diversity. Perhaps the most profound connection-building strategy involves reframing the scientific work itself in terms of its global benefits. Each experiment includes clear explanations of how its results might help people on Earth, perhaps developing new medical treatments, improving environmental monitoring techniques, or creating advanced materials with terrestrial applications. Astronauts regularly participate in video conferences with the global research teams benefiting from their work, hearing directly how their efforts in orbit are advancing knowledge and improving lives worldwide. The station's computing systems include a connection map feature that visually links specific experiments to their Earth applications, showing how a crystal growth study might connect to pharmaceutical research in Europe, or how fluid physics experiments could improve water purification systems in developing nations. This transforms routine scientific procedures from abstract research into tangible contributions to human progress, helping astronauts see themselves as working for all humanity rather than just completing assigned tasks. This comprehensive approach to fostering connection represents one of the space station's most remarkable achievements, creating an environment where living further from Earth than almost all humans paradoxically brings astronauts closer to understanding what it means to be part of humanity. Through carefully designed systems that emphasize our planetary interconnectedness, cultural richness, and shared future, space station designers ensure that those who venture into orbit return with not just scientific data, but with expanded empathy and a deepened commitment to our collective well-being. Building emotional resilience represents the ultimate synthesis of all psychological design principles aboard a space station, transforming what could be an environment of constant stress into what psychologists term a mastery ecosystem, where every challenge becomes an opportunity to develop greater emotional durability. Designers approach resilience not as an inherent trait, but as a capacity that can be systematically cultivated through what they call graduated competence building, creating systems that provide astronauts with continuous evidence of their growing capabilities while ensuring that setbacks become learning opportunities rather than confidence-shattering failures. This sophisticated approach recognizes that in an environment where actual failures can be catastrophic, resilience must be built through simulated challenges and carefully managed real-world experiences that stretch capabilities without overwhelming them. The foundation of this resilience-building architecture appears in the station's problem-solving interfaces, which are designed to provide what psychologists call success feedback loops, clear, immediate evidence when solutions are working. Unlike Earth-based systems that might simply indicate when something is wrong, space station interfaces highlight what's right first, then guide attention toward solutions. A troubleshooting system might begin by confirming that 90% of components are functioning normally before outlining the specific issue, creating psychological space for the astronaut to approach the problem from a position of strength rather than deficit. The interfaces use visualizations that show progress in concrete terms, perhaps a series of green checkmarks that accumulate as each diagnostic step is completed, or a progress bar that fills as the astronaut moves closer to resolution. This constant positive feedback transforms potentially stressful situations into opportunities to demonstrate competence, building what mission planners call confidence capital that astronauts can draw upon during truly novel emergencies. Training scenarios before and during missions employ what psychologists term graduated exposure to challenges, systematically building resilience through carefully sequenced difficulty levels. Astronauts begin with straightforward simulations where success is almost guaranteed, then progress to increasingly complex scenarios that introduce multiple simultaneous failures or unexpected complications. The key to this approach lies in what trainers call the sweet spot of challenge situations that are difficult enough to require genuine growth, but not so hard that they become discouraging. The station's training systems track performance across hundreds of parameters, customizing subsequent scenarios to address specific growth areas for each astronaut. A crew member who struggles with electrical systems might receive more practice in that area, while someone who excels at mechanical repairs might face more complex versions of those challenges. This personalized approach ensures that every astronaut develops broad resilience rather than just excelling in their natural strengths. Recovery systems represent perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated aspect of resilience engineering, focusing on making it not just possible but emotionally safe to learn from mistakes. When errors occur, whether in simulations or actual operations, the station's systems provide what designers call graceful recovery paths that emphasize learning rather than blame. Instead of flashing alarming error messages, interfaces might display messages like, "That approach didn't work as expected. Let's try this alternative together," before offering a suggested solution with explanations of why it might work better. The systems track errors not to create permanent records of failure, but to identify patterns that might indicate where additional training or interface improvements are needed. This approach creates what psychologists call a growth mindset environment where mistakes are viewed as natural steps in the learning process rather than as personal failures. Personal competence tracking systems provide astronauts with tangible evidence of their growing capabilities throughout the mission. These aren't simple performance metrics but sophisticated analyzers that highlight improvement trends, newly acquired skills, and expanding problem-solving abilities. An astronaut might receive a weekly summary showing how their efficiency in certain procedures has improved, complete with visualizations that make their progress concrete. The systems also track what might be called resilience indicators, metrics like recovery time after unexpected events, adaptability when procedures change, and effectiveness under time pressure. These reports aren't about comparison with other crew members but about personal growth, helping astronauts recognize development that might otherwise go unnoticed amid the daily challenges of space station life. Communication protocols with ground control are carefully designed to build what mission planners call interdependent resilience, the ability to work effectively with Earth-based support without developing dependency. Rather than simply providing solutions when problems arise, ground controllers use what they term guided discovery approaches, asking questions that help astronauts reason through challenges themselves. The communication interfaces include collaborative problem-solving tools that allow both parties to view the same data, annotate diagrams together, and test potential solutions in simulations before implementing them in reality. This creates what psychologists call scaffolded independence, enough support to ensure success while gradually building the astronaut's ability to handle similar situations independently in the future. The systems even include autonomy milestones that track how often astronauts resolve issues without ground intervention, providing concrete evidence of growing self-reliance. The physical environment itself contributes to resilience building through customizable elements that allow astronauts to leave their mark on the station over time. Unlike earlier spacecraft where every component was fixed and unchanging, modern stations include what designers call evolutionary surfaces, areas that crews can modify, improve, or personalize throughout their mission. This might be a storage system that can be reconfigured based on lessons learned about what items are needed most frequently, or a workstation interface that allows personalization of display layouts based on individual problem-solving styles. Even the station's software includes features that astronauts can customize based on their experiences, with suggestions for improvements actually incorporated into updates when possible. This ability to shape their environment creates what psychologists call environmental mastery, the deeply satisfying sense that one can improve their circumstances through effort and creativity, which is fundamental to psychological resilience. The station's scheduling systems incorporate what might be called resilience spacing, strategic placement of challenging activities, followed by periods for consolidation and recovery. Rather than grouping all difficult tasks together, the systems distribute them in patterns that allow astronauts to apply lessons from one challenge to the next while having time to mentally process their experiences. After particularly demanding operations, the schedule might include deliberately lighter periods with activities that draw on well-established skills, providing opportunities to experience competence and mastery before facing the next significant challenge. This rhythmic alternation between stretching beyond comfort zones and operating within well-practiced capabilities creates what psychologists identify as the ideal pattern for building durable resilience without leading to burnout or overwhelm. Perhaps the most advanced resilience-building feature involves what mission planners call the narrative integration system technology that helps astronauts reframe challenging experiences into coherent stories of growth and mastery. The system captures video, audio, and data from significant events, then helps crew members create multimedia accounts that highlight their effective responses and lessons learned. An astronaut might review a difficult repair operation not just as a series of steps but as a narrative of identifying the problem, developing a strategy, overcoming obstacles, and ultimately succeeding. These curated narratives become personal resources that astronauts can revisit during future challenges, reminding themselves of their capabilities and resilience. The system even includes features for sharing these stories with new crew members, creating an evolving library of institutional wisdom about how to thrive in the space environment. This comprehensive approach to building resilience transforms the space station from merely a survivable environment into what psychologists would call a growth environment, a place where challenges don't just test existing capabilities but actively develop new ones. Through carefully designed systems that provide clear feedback, graduated challenges, safe recovery from mistakes, and tangible evidence of growth, space station designers ensure that astronauts don't just endure their time in orbit, but emerge from it with expanded capabilities and strengthened psychological durability that serves them long after they return to Earth. Looking ahead to Mars missions and the dawn of interplanetary travel, emotional design is rapidly evolving from supportive feature to critical life support system. The future of these psychological technologies lies in three revolutionary advancements: continuous biometric monitoring, artificial intelligence emotional support systems, and hyper-realistic virtual reality environments. Unlike current systems that primarily respond to observable behavior or self-reported states, next-generation spacecraft will incorporate wearable sensors that track subtle physiological indicators in real-time heart rate variability, galvanic skin response, pupillary dilation, and even subtle facial microexpressions that astronauts themselves might not recognize. This biometric tapestry will feed into AI systems capable of detecting emotional shifts long before they reach conscious awareness, allowing for preemptive environmental adjustments that maintain psychological equilibrium during the months-long journey through the void between worlds. These AI emotional support systems represent a quantum leap beyond today's relatively simple scheduling algorithms and environmental controls. Imagine an artificial intelligence that learns each astronaut's unique psychological fingerprint, their specific stress triggers, optimal recovery patterns, and even the subtle ways their emotional needs change throughout a mission. This AI wouldn't just respond to crises, it would actively cultivate mental resilience through personalized interventions. It might detect early signs of cognitive fatigue and subtly adjust lighting color temperatures to boost alertness, or notice rising tension between crew members and suggest collaborative activities that rebuild camaraderie. During particularly challenging periods, the system could access the astronauts' personal preferences to create perfectly timed moments of comfort, perhaps playing a favorite piece of music from their childhood or releasing a scent associated with positive memories. The AI would serve as both psychologist and companion, capable of engaging in therapeutic conversations using natural language processing that understands not just words but emotional subtext and unspoken needs. Virtual reality technology will undergo its own revolution, moving beyond today's relatively simple visual simulations to create fully immersive Earth experiences that engage all senses with near-perfect fidelity. Future Mars-bound spacecraft might include dedicated VR chambers where astronauts can spend hours walking through digitally recreated forests with haptic flooring that simulates the feel of soil and leaves underfoot, complete with temperature-controlled airflow that mimics gentle breezes and scent emitters that release the complex aroma of damp earth and vegetation. These systems could recreate entire Earth locations with such precision that astronauts could virtually visit their actual homes, sit at their own kitchen tables, and interact with photorealistic avatars of family members powered by real-time motion capture from Earth. The psychological impact of being able to return home for an evening while physically being tens of millions of miles away could prove transformative for crew morale and mental health during the most isolating phases of deep space missions. SpaceX and Blue Origin are already integrating these psychological principles at the most fundamental levels of spacecraft design, representing a dramatic shift in how private space companies approach human factors engineering. Unlike government space agencies that often added psychological considerations after establishing technical parameters, these commercial ventures are designing emotional well-being into their vehicles from the earliest conceptual stages. SpaceX's Starship, intended for Mars missions, includes design elements that would have seemed frivolous to previous generations of aerospace engineers: larger communal spaces that can be reconfigured for different social needs, larger viewports positioned for both awe-inspiring vistas and psychological comfort, and lighting systems that do more than just illuminate, actively supporting circadian rhythms and mood regulation. Blue Origin's orbital habitat concept similarly prioritize psychological needs, with interior layouts that create natural social flow patterns and private quarters designed as true sanctuaries rather than merely functional sleeping pods. This emerging recognition that emotional well-being constitutes a mission-critical requirement rather than a luxury reflects hard lessons learned from decades of space station operations. Mission planners now understand that technical excellence alone cannot ensure mission success when humans are pushed beyond earthly limits for extended periods. The psychological breakdown of a single crew member during a Mars mission could endanger the entire endeavor when return to Earth isn't an option for months or even years. This understanding has propelled emotional design from peripheral consideration to core engineering discipline, with psychological factors now carrying equal weight with structural integrity and life support reliability in design trade studies for next-generation spacecraft. Remarkably, the innovations developed for space exploration are already creating a feedback loop that's transforming extreme environment design here on Earth. Nuclear submarines, once characterized by purely functional design, now incorporate space-derived principles of color psychology, acoustic management, and personal space optimization. Antarctic research stations have adopted the space station model of creating psychological decompression zones where researchers can escape the monotony of their surroundings through controlled sensory variation. Even terrestrial applications in more ordinary settings are benefiting. Hospitals are using space-derived lighting systems to support patient recovery. Offices are incorporating biophilic design principles tested on space stations, and isolation facilities during pandemics have benefited from research on managing confinement stress. This cross-pollination between space and terrestrial design will only accelerate as we prepare for longer missions further from Earth. The same virtual reality systems that will support Mars astronauts are already being adapted for elderly care facilities, allowing mobility-limited residents to travel to meaningful locations. Biometric monitoring technology developed for space is finding applications in mental health care, providing early warning of depressive episodes or anxiety attacks. The architectural principles that make small spaces feel expansive and comfortable in zero gravity are influencing urban micro-housing design in densely populated cities. Each technological breakthrough for space exploration carries potential applications for improving life on Earth, creating a virtuous cycle where investments in keeping astronauts mentally healthy in space yield dividends for psychological well-being back on our home planet. The 22 distinct human emotions we've journeyed through represent far more than abstract psychological concepts. They are active, measurable engineering parameters that space station designers systematically integrate into every bolt, every wire, every line of code, and every square inch of living space. This represents a fundamental evolution in how we approach exploration, moving beyond the historical focus on mere mechanical survival to actively designing for human thriving. We've moved from simply keeping astronauts alive to ensuring they remain psychologically whole, cognitively sharp, and emotionally resilient in an environment that is inherently and profoundly unnatural for human beings. The architectural illusions that fight claustrophobia, the forced collaboration spaces that build camaraderie, the sensory touchstones that soothe nostalgia. These aren't luxuries or afterthoughts. They are as critical to mission success as a functioning oxygen generator or a stable orbit, because they directly safeguard the human element that operates all that other machinery. This deep integration of emotional intelligence into cold, hard engineering marks one of the most significant and often overlooked advancements in our journey to the stars. For decades, the focus was overwhelmingly on the technical hurdles: achieving escape velocity, creating reliable life support, mastering orbital mechanics. The human inside the machine was often treated as a somewhat unpredictable component, expected to adapt to the engineering rather than the other way around. Today, that paradigm has completely flipped. We now understand that the most sophisticated spacecraft ever built is useless without a crew that can think clearly, work together effectively, and maintain their mental well-being under unimaginable pressure. The emotional design of a habitat is now given equal weight to its radiation shielding and structural integrity during design reviews, because a homesick, irritable, or overwhelmed astronaut is as much a mission risk as a leaking thruster or a faulty sensor. As we set our sights on destinations far beyond low Earth orbit, to the lunar gateway, to the ruddy plains of Mars, and eventually to the moons of the outer planets, this emotional intelligence woven into our spacecraft may ultimately prove just as vital as the rocket fuel that propels us there. These future missions will involve journeys lasting years, not months, with communication delays that make real-time support from Earth impossible. Crews will be more isolated than any humans in history, facing challenges we can only partially anticipate. In these extreme environments, the spacecraft must become more than a vehicle or a habitat. It must become a psychological life raft, an intelligent partner in maintaining human health. The lessons learned from managing 22 distinct emotions on the International Space Station will form the foundational blueprints for creating environments that can support human sanity and solidarity on a multi-year mission to another world. So the next time you find yourself outside on a clear evening, look up. If you're lucky, you might see a bright, steady star moving purposefully across the sky, the International Space Station. When you see it, remember that you're not just looking at a triumph of physics and engineering, a collection of modules and solar arrays. You are witnessing a carefully crafted emotional sanctuary, a tiny bubble of psychological safety and human warmth orbiting our planet at 17,500 miles per hour. It is a testament to our species' growing wisdom, a recognition that to truly conquer the final frontier, we must bring the very best of our humanity with us and design worlds that not only sustain our bodies, but